Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Ayo me fele sama,
Me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
sisa me fele sama,
me fele sama,
ay mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
brother me fele sama,
me fele sama, me fele sama, me fele sama, me fele sama, me fele sama, me fele sama.
mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama, mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama, mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama, mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama.
Ayo me fele sama,
Me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
sisa me fele sama,
me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
me fele sama.
me fele sama.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama, mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama. Ayo.
Mina bakabusi nengre, mine pele obiama. Mina bakabusi nengre, me fele sama,
Ayo me fele sama,
me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
sisa me fele sama,
me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
mama me fele sama,
me fele sama,
sisa me fele sama.
me fele sama.
Fire burn them dirty king, blaze up them dirty king, fire burn them king, send him disastrous, and time he fast with us, ancestors walk with us, fire burn them king.
Tender and Wadi be thankful unto the Mother, Father, creative life force of the universe. Kuzai Muzimu Mukudo give praises unto our great ancestors. Abibi Tumi, Abibi Fahodi, African power and African liberation for all African people. You don't know, so we're there again, another Ujima Day, Tuesday. It is the 4th of July. The month them call July, and we're here for another episode, another reasoning in the context of Zivanayi on gotkushTV. For all those who are unaware, the word sounds Zivanayi, spoken in the Shona language, which is mostly spoken in the nation called Zimbabwe, simply means let us get to know. Let us get to know each other. It's a word that relates to the social relationships between I and I as people. This is our open house show, weekly. Yeah, every week we come on with us, reason and season, yeah, and sometimes debate and all of these things, all right. And so we tend to open the show with myself giving a reflection on some of the things then we cross I and I, mind, what I'm saying, and all these things over the past week. And then we open the floor for ones and ones who want to join the panel and or ask questions from the chat. So feel free to do either of those things. Yeah, feel free to do either of those things as we go forward. Yeah, so look at the housekeeping movements. Yeah, please like up the video as you come through. Please like up the video as you come through. Yeah, and if you want to support gotkushTV financially speaking, there is a link in the description, yeah, to the video. There's a link in the description to the video through which you can actualize, yeah, your support for gotkushTV should you choose to do so. And obviously we encourage you to do so, and that link is also scrolling along the bottom of your screen right about now. So we look forward to seeing you all supporting us, and have no doubt, yeah, I'm preparing some content, yeah, behind the scenes, just making sure that we have all the facilities in place, yeah, to be able to produce that content to the highest level possible, given our current level of development, and also making sure that all the logistics are in place, yeah. So in the final quarter, yeah, in the final quarter of the year 2023, we are gonna have some things that come for the item, yeah, what I'm saying. And so we're not gonna talk up the things them too tough, yeah. We're not gonna talk up all of the things them right, but do stay tuned because the things that are come, what I'm saying. So we look forward to all of that will be coming through the platform, yeah. So if you want to support that, preemptively, feel free to click the link in the description. You can also join our Telegram group, and I'm gonna just forget to put the information in the Telegram group. I'm failing the people in right about now. So let me just correct that right about now and put all of the things them in the Telegram group. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because that is very important. All right. See it there? Okay. So it's in the Telegram group now. And yeah, what I'm saying. So we look forward to more of that Kings and Queens. But yeah, we're going to be bringing you some of our scholarship before the end of the year, and going into next year, we're going to be producing some of our flagship shows. Yeah, we have some things that come for next year still. Yeah, so do stay tuned. Yeah, yeah, we're not gonna talk about the things there right now, but a lot of things are happening in the background, family. So we're here. This is our weekly show just to engage with you, making us we're there and that we are building and growing, and hopefully you will grow along with us. All right, so if you want to join that Telegram group, once again, there is a link in the description right here now, so you can click the link in the description. A couple more things here. On this coming Thursday, this coming near day, the 6th of July, near day, the 6th of July, we have a very special interview coming up, yeah, and that is the interview with our brother Rakim Shabazz. Brother Rakim Shabazz, yeah, has produced the Why Is the Dome album. He's the executive producer, the curator, yeah, but behind the Why Is the Dome album. Brother Rakim Shabazz is also the host of the Why Is the Dome podcast, yeah, upon which I have had the pleasure of featuring. So do check out the Rakim Shabazz Why Is the Dome album, and also subscribe to his channel, yeah, Why Is the Dome. subscribe to his channel right there. So Wise the Dome TV is the channel. Wise the Dome TV. And check out the video coming up here this coming Thursday. You'll be able to see the upcoming video link posted on our channel right now. Yeah, so do check it out. And that video is coming out on Thursday, 5 p.m. UK time, which is 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yeah. Because I know some more someone where I listen worldwide. If you're there across the Atlantic, you're upon EST. Yeah. So feel free to check that out, Kings and Queens. It's a beautiful and powerful interview. I'm gonna be releasing some content as well. Actually, I mean we got this interview, and we got an addendum to this interview in which Brother Rakim is breaking down the science behind the album cover, for the Wise the Dome album. So I encourage you to check that out and support Wise the Dome TV. We're also going to be releasing some content in terms of a Pan-African analysis, of the Russia-Ukraine war next week. So do stay tuned for that. Do stay tuned for that. Myself, a previous show that myself and Mansa Fode, who is based in Freetown, Sierra Leone, and is the head of an organization of which I am the UK head, which is Basani, the Black Star Action Network International. And so we had a beautiful interview with a brother by the name of Kwame Pianki, and so we're going to be sharing that via gotkushTV very soon. So stay tuned for that next week, and more to come, Kings and Queens, more to come, you know what I'm saying, in the coming months and weeks. So I should say this as well. Let me say that the month of Messiah approacheth. For those who are not aware, the month of Messiah, 31 days of observation and celebration and honor, mojuba as we say in the Yoruba language, honor of the life and legacy of the most eminent prophet, His Excellency Marcus Mosiah Garvey, and the UNIA ACL, an organization of which I am also a member. And that takes place every year, as hosted by the Al-Keblan Revivalist Movement. And our opening ceremony is to be held on Umoja Day, the 6th, the 6th of Mosiah, the month called August, which is the month of Marcus Garvey's birth, at the Chestnuts Community Center over there in Tottenham, N15 5BN. And so we are going to be featuring a lot of content from the events. The month is full of events, radio shows, and so on and so forth. And so we're going to be sharing a lot of that content through gotkushTV as well, hopefully. So do stay tuned for that. But we encourage you all to come down to the Messiah opening ceremony, and you can see the website there, alkeboland.org, for all information. And all the information is not posted yet, but it will be soon, so do stay tuned. What I can tell you now is that I have the honor of delivering the keynote address at the Messiah opening ceremony. I have the pleasure of delivering the keynote address at the Messiah opening ceremony. And so I'm not going to tell you what the keynote address is going to be yet. Do stay tuned. We'll announce that soon. But I encourage you all to come down, you know what I'm saying, and just share the vibration with us. It's taking place as part of our Shumira, which is our monthly African spiritual worship as the Al-Keblan Revivalist Movement. And so, we deal with African liberation on a holistic level. It's the political, it's the economical, it's the social, it's the cultural, it's the spiritual. And so all of that is encapsulated in the month of Messiah in general, and the Messiah opening ceremony in particular. So that's a date for your diary for those of us who are based in the UK. And even if you're not even based in the UK, book a flight and come over for the Messiah opening ceremony. Okay. All right, Kings and Queens. That's all the announcements for now. I might repeat them, at the end of the show. You know what I'm saying? But first, let me get into the chat and just greet the people them. Seti Motep, you don't know, always a pleasure, my brother. Mush in the building, blessings. James O, Coffee Campbell, Kyra K, peace and blessings. And those are Kimani Hibbert has also posted in the chat. Big up all of the silent listeners as well, silent viewers as well. We welcome the whole lot honor. I also have to say that during the course of the discussion, the show, if you want your comment to be read, if you want me to see your comment and read it out, please at gotkushTV. Please at gotkushTV. If the comment doesn't have at gotkushTV, me not gonna read it out. Yeah, that's so that we obviously brothers and sisters have their own conversations in the chat. So we want to encourage that too. And that's also so I'm able to cipher through. What I'm saying, the most relevant things in the chat that I need to read out for the show itself. All right. So please at gotkushTV if you want your comment or question to be read out on the show. And very shortly, in fact, let me do that now. I'm gonna share the link. Yeah. For ones and ones who want to join the actual panel, come live and talk to I, raise your own topics, contribute to whatever topics I raise. Yeah, feel free to come live on the platform and do that. Yeah, we encourage it, and I want to give thanks. Yeah, for a very lively and beautiful show that we had last week. Yeah, now last week was the first time that I set the topic for the entire show. Yeah. Every now and then I'm gonna do that because I felt like it was successful last week. I think it was a very successful show and a very lively discussion. And the discussion was around the victim mentality that we have as African people, particularly as African people who are unapologetic in our denunciation an organization against the forces of what is referred to as Western imperialism, which is basically the continued colonization of the planet, in particular African people, by European nations, commonly known today as the geopolitical West. Yeah. And so because of this, unapologetic stance, yeah, there are many who use or caricature us with the label of victim mentality. And so we were exploring that last week. And so, yeah, if you want to check out that show there, feel free to check it out. We've released some videos, clips from the show also. And I'm going to release at least one more. Yeah, one more from that show there. You know what I'm saying? So do stay tuned for that. All right. The link to join the show. Yeah, the link to join the show is in the description right here now. If you are watching anywhere other than gotkushTV right about now, you need to come and watch via gotkushTV to get the link, yeah, for the panel, to join the panel. All right, so come through gotkushTV. All right, you know what I'm saying? Just come to our channel. You'll be able to find the video, and at the top of the chat, pinned to the top of the chat, you'll find the link to join the live stream, and we welcome you in advance, yeah, for doing so. All right, so much things are going in the world right here now. So much things are going in the world right here now, and I'm gonna read one article, but I'm just gonna blitz through some of the things, and I don't even really have time to give an in-depth analysis, yeah, of the all heap of things that come across me cipher, yeah, in the last week, and my thoughts on them. All right, but me go touch and move, yeah, me go touch and move. And I'm going to spend a little bit more time on the third one because I'm going to read one article about it, yeah. But the first I could have spoken about a couple weeks ago, and that is the fact that Brother Cornel West, yeah, is running for president, yeah, in America. He first announced his candidacy a couple weeks ago now, and was running under the People's Party. He has since switched allegiances and is now running with the Green Party. Yeah. For those who may not be aware, Brother Cornel West is an elder, scholar, activist of note within the United States of America. And, we have some divergences in politics. I am a Black nationalist, Pan-Africanist. Brother Cornel West might consider himself to be a Christian socialist in the prophetic tradition of Martin Luther King, yeah, Ella Baker and others, although I don't believe Ella Baker was a Christian, but he certainly walks in her tradition, politically speaking, yeah. And so we have some, political divergences and areas of convergence as well. At the same time, he's a man who I have grown to respect, yeah, on some levels. All right, one of our political differences, like I found out recently, that he has a non-African wife, yeah, and so, you know, my politics affirms the power and the beauty and the necessity for the conjugal union between the African man and the African woman. So we have an obvious difference of politics there, yeah. In the 90s, he would have been considered little more really than an integrationist for the most part. There's a good video of him on a panel, yeah, which also featured Sister Soldier and also Brother Elder Daruba bin Wahad in the 90s concerning the system of white supremacy in America. And, you know, I was less than, I don't mind saying, I was less than inspired by his pronouncements on that particular show. Thoroughly inspired by the work and the word sounds of Sister Soldier, yeah, on that show. But in the 90s, he was also one of a few who came out against the book, if I remember rightly, the secret relationship between blacks and Jews that was published by the Nation of Islam, right? And so, you know, he's always had a bit of a interesting relationship here with the black nationalist community in the 90s. But where my perspective on him began to shift, and I would imagine this was alongside a shift in his own politics, is during the presidency of Barack Obama, yeah. And during the presidency, well, the election of Barack Obama, a lot of the black nationalist Pan-Africanist community was singing from the hymn sheet of the American establishment, in that for some reason everybody started to jump on this Obama bandwagon for one reason or one excuse or one justification or another. And there were very few among the black nationalist Pan-Africanists who were prepared, yeah, to have a stance of non-committal to this establishment and to this particular individual, and denunciation of the institution of the American presidency, and also recognition that this individual was not in any way, shape, or form going to change the face of America in terms of it being a neo-colonial nation state and a part of the geopolitical Western Empire. All right. So, and as I said that, I have to big up Mama Marimba Ani, yeah, because she was one of them that was prepared to stand strong, yeah, and that's why I love her to death, right? I know that elder mama right there is my spiritual mother, and partly because she was prepared to take stances like the one she took in relation to the Obama presidency. Cornel West, for Cornel West part, he campaigned, yeah, for the election of Barack Obama. He was one of many in the class of what's the word? What they call the commentariat, yeah, among African people in America, yeah, who were supportive of the ascendancy of Barack Obama to the presidency for many obvious reasons, which I won't delineate right now. At the same time, his peers in this regard were people like Tavis Smiley and people like Al Sharpton and people like Michael Eric Dyson. Yeah, those are among the more prominent people that were in his vicinity, his friends, his colleagues in that particular social class of Africans in America. And all of them said, we're going to elect this man to be the president, and then we are going to hold him accountable, yeah, to the community, hold him accountable to the people. And it seemed to me to be the case, yeah, that all of them abdicated that responsibility. Al Sharpton went on MSNBC, took a big job, and spent the whole of the 8 years of Obama defending him. Yeah, Michael Eric Dyson did the same thing and continues to create excuses for why he unquestionably devotes loyalty to the Democratic Party in the United States of America. Yeah, and there were many others. Yeah, practically any black face you saw on MSNBC during that time was among the talking heads who basically were in the pocket of the Democratic Party and the Obama administration for those 8 years. Cornel West distinguished himself because Cornel West, when Barack Obama was elected president, did not jump on the bandwagon and remain on it, although based upon the careers of all of his colleagues at the time, could have been quite a lucrative endeavor for him. Yeah, he went on what was called a poverty tour with Tavis Smiley. Yeah, and was trying to raise the issue of poverty in America and get President Obama to address the issue of poverty in America. Cornel West became one of the most vocal critics of the Obama administration in terms of its failure to address the issue of poverty in America, in terms of its failure to address the neocolonial policies of the United States of America in the world, and in particular situations like its Obama's support and expansion of the U.S. military high command in Africa, known as AFRICOM, issues of Palestine and Israel, and many other things, and so, but based upon that, again, we have our political divergences, all right? Let me make that clear, I'm not necessarily advocating Cornel West's political agenda, all right? But I respect his willingness and capacity to stand on principle, yes, in relation to the Obama administration at that time. And I also saw how his former friends, some of which I've mentioned earlier, attacked him mercilessly for doing so. And he continued to stay on principle, and I don't have to agree with an individual to recognize when they stand on and stick to their principles, all right? And he was the only one, of his particular circle. Now, I shouldn't say he was the only one, because Tavis Smiley was also a part of that, is also a part of that circle, and Tavis Smiley stood with Cornel West, all right? But he was the one who took the most licks, for standing on that principle, at that time. So the reason why, despite my differences with Cornel West, his going for the presidency interests me. It's for the same reason why, for example, I'm very interested in the third party candidate, the third party candidate. And for those who are not aware of that terminology, all it means is that the politics of the Western world and all those who mimic and ape the Western world, yes, I mean nations in Africa and the Caribbean, is heavily defined by the two-party system, which means that there are two main parties, generally speaking, although there is a lot of confluence between these things, but generally speaking, considered to be one on the left and one on the right of the political spectrum as far as European politics is concerned. And it's very difficult, not impossible, for any other of a political party to become the head of the government or in government within such a system. Okay, all right. And so the third party is a catch-all terminology for all of the other parties, who operate outside of those two main parties and are vying for influence within the political system. And so I'm very interested in third-party politics, and I'm interested in it generally speaking. That's whether I agree with the politics or not. For example, I was very interested to see how the United Kingdom Independence Party, UKIP, influenced the politics of the United Kingdom of Great Britain over the last 2 decades, and did so to the effect that they basically forced the referendum on Britain's involvement in the European Union. And for those who understand and know, I've been following world UK politics for any significant period of time, will know that in 2016, the UK voted to come out of the European Union to a significant degree. That was based upon the constant work of UKIP in putting that on the political agenda, all right, and forcing the Conservative Party to put that on the ballot, so to speak, okay? And so that's a very interesting, it's very interesting to see how third parties are able to influence political discourse, and usually, especially in a nation like America, the political establishment does a very easy job of drowning out the voices of anything other than the main two parties. So in America, it will be the Democratic and the Republican. In the UK, it will be the Conservative and the Labour. And then in third place, you have the Liberal Democrats, who technically speaking are not considered a third party because they're big enough to be. They're just outside of the realms of the other main two, but they've never been in government. All right, and so so it's very interesting to me. But the difference of a Cornel West is that he has the profile He's been on all of the major media news platforms, all of them. Yeah, he's had access to those platforms for years. So it's not so easy to drown out a voice like that. Yeah, it's not so easy to drown out a voice like that. And because so much of black media in the America really operates as a propaganda machine for the Democratic Party, and Cornel West is so not on that agenda, it's going to be very interesting to me to see how he's able to influence and affect the political discourse, but also how black media are going to respond to him. Yeah, that's going to be a very interesting dynamic for me to watch. All right. So I'm just thinking aloud right now. I'm just making know what is in my head. This is how ShakaRa thinks. This is the a window, yeah, into the mind of ShakaRa on these subjects. It's going to be very interesting to watch and observe. All right. And so we are going look upon that very closely. Yeah. So if on a while talk about that, feel free to talk about that when I open up the lines, yeah. Or when you can click the link now and do so, come through, and we can have a discussion around that. Or you can ask a question on it in the chat, please, at gotkushTV if you want to do so, and I will read your comment out. The second thing that is interesting to me, again, this is US politics, is this thing about affirmative action being rolled back. I'm not gonna be honest with you, I'm not as because of my politics, I'm not as distressed. Yeah, I'm with my Africans in America who are not as distressed, yeah, about the fact that affirmative action has been rolled back. But even those who are not as distressed understand what it is, yeah, and the talking points around it. I find it very interesting that white America has been able to roll back affirmative action, which is supposed to be they basically a way to remedy discrimination against so-called minorities, and notice I say minorities and not black people, yeah, in America, by affirmatively going after them in positions like enrollment into universities, because of the fact that Africans in America and other so-called minorities have traditionally been excluded or discriminated against in these institutions. All right, and so it's interesting to me, whatever my position on affirmative action is not necessarily the most important thing, right? The talking points and the narrative surrounding it is what has interested me, because they have centered the discussion of affirmative action around black people, despite the fact that affirmative action, it is proven, did not majority benefit black people. The biggest beneficiaries of affirmative action in the United States of America happen to be white women. Yeah. Yet they have got affirmative action rolled back in relation to college admissions, particularly in relation to top universities like Harvard and Princeton and Yale in America, based upon the idea that privileging African Americans discriminates against Asian Americans. Yeah. Yet, from my research or what I've been able to look into, there's no evidence that this is actually the case, that admissions of Africans in America in any way, shape, or form is negatively impacting the Asian community in the United States. Okay, and if we want to go more into that, we can, but we're not going to spend too much time on that. Yeah. What's also interesting to me, though, is two things about this story. The first is that as far as universities like Yale and Princeton and Harvard are concerned, them have a thing called legacy admissions, yeah, which is basically if your papa and your grandpapa and your uncle and so on and so forth, they got them university there, you are more likely to be able to get in based upon your parents' association with that institution, especially if you are wealthy. And for example, you have a situation in which, like, you have halls, yeah, and your father's name could be on the hall. If your father's name is on the hall, you're more likely to get into that university. All right. And so whereas they have spoken about everybody having equal opportunity, yeah, it's clear that based upon that kind of a system, yeah, which is instituted within those universities, equal opportunity is not present, right? But they have not attacked the legacy admissions, yeah, what they call legacy admissions, and a significant number, apparently, of legacy admissions would not have otherwise made it, based upon their grades and their achievements in academia, would not have otherwise made it had their parents and family not had gone to that institution prior to. Yeah, right. And so bear in mind that there is nothing in affirmative action whereby black people who are not qualified to attend said universities get into those universities. Yeah, not Nagosa. The people that go to the university are already qualified to go there. They have the grades and they meet all of the criteria. But the people that are supposed to go after them because they meet them, maybe they live in Brooklyn or South Central LA, yeah, or wherever majority black communities are, that often do not have access, yeah, to the kinds of resources and networks that afford them access to these universities. Yeah, so this big lie that people who are underachieving in education are getting all of these university placements is not the case, right? But that's the narrative. Yeah, that's the narrative right behind the thing. The second thing that interests me has got, oh yes, that they reversed affirmative action for college placements, yeah, for university placements, except for military academies. That means academies, yeah, that are attached and designed to bring people into the US military. Africans in America are disproportionately represented in the US military. So why is it that affirmative action is considered a problem for these Europeans and their stooges in the Supreme Court and the black conservative industrial complex in particular, but not in relation to the military? Why is it okay for Africans to receive affirmative action to fight in the military on behalf of America, but not okay for Africans to receive affirmative action, to be the beneficiaries of affirmative action just for the purposes of higher education? It's a question that interests me, yeah? I could go into the fact that Clarence Thomas, one of the most vociferous voices on the Supreme Court against affirmative action, is in fact a beneficiary of affirmative action, and not only affirmative action in terms of his college placement, but his entire career, yeah, has been subsidized by rich white men in one way or another. All right. That's subject number 2 that was on my mind. And finally, we're going to take it to Nigeria. We're going to take it to Nigeria. We're going to take it to Nigeria. But we go to Nigeria, right, you know. Yeah. And I'm just going to read a piece of this article that was posted on Punch News, yeah, a Nigerian publication recently. And as you can see, the headline, hold on, the later on, yeah, not like too much pop up on the website, yeah, but it's all good. We're going to read the article anyway. All right. So as you can see, I cancelled Ilori Isheshe Festival after my life was threatened. Neighbors abandoned me. Oshun priestess. All right. Now, for those who are not aware, Isheshe is the terminology that is used to refer to the indigenous spiritual system of the Yoruba people. Okay. Often referred to as Ifa, yeah, but many would say more properly referred to as Isheshe, which basically means the honoring of the source of our tradition, honoring our source, honoring our origins, yeah. That's literally what the terminology means. And the article reads, Jesse Kemi Olokun Omolara, the Oshun priestess, threatened by a Muslim group, I believe that's Majlisu Shabab Li Ola Mahu Society in Ilori, the capital of Kwara State, to desist from holding a planned Isheshe festival in the state, has shared her side of the story. Trouble started Monday following the release of flyers announcing the 3-day event in Ilori. Not long after the flyers emerged online, Members of the Muslim group stormed her residence and warned her not to hold the festival. The group said they were sent by the emir, which is the head or the king or the chief counselor, you could say, of Ilori, Dr. Sulu Gambari. In a video released online, Omolara shared her side of the story, bemoaning the unfortunate situation and also disclosing that her life was in danger. She revealed that since the issue went viral, she had received numerous death threats. Speaking during a short video published on Facebook, Omolara recounted her ordeal since the announcement of her event. Quote, I was planning the Isheshe festival in Ilori. And this is a translation from Yoruba, I do believe, because I have checked out the sister's social media and basically all of her videos are in Yoruba. All right. Issues began after flyers for the event were posted online. In no time, I was bombarded with calls and social media tags. Some of my people soon began calling to inform me of plans by the imams to shut my event down. It's been a stressful couple of days since the flyers were released. I have received multiple death threats from unknown people. The priestess expressed surprise at the turn of events, adding that it was the first time she would face such harassment in the city. I have lived in Ilori for many years and experienced nothing but peace until recently. I've always been fair and kind to my neighbors, and this has been reciprocated over the years. I've always considered Ilori a peaceful place and lived in peace with my neighbors for years until recently. Omolara, who said she once facilitated the construction of a mosque and a well in the community, amongst other philanthropic acts, said none of her neighbors have provided her with support amid her travails. Quote, given what I have done for the community, it came as a rude shock when no one offered any assistance during my time of need, she said. Omolara, however, promised to continue helping her community despite the treatment received from the imams. Asked if she would ever consider converting to Islam, Omolara answered no and said, quote, even if I was considering this, their recent behavior has convinced me otherwise. Yeah. All right. So the reason why this thing came across, yeah, my purview, yeah, and the reason why this interested me, not only because we're dealing with an indigenous African spiritual system on the continent of Mama Africa, all right, but also because Ilori is a part of Yoruba land, yes. All right, so there are many different so-called ethnic groups, yeah, nations of people that make up what is called Nigeria today. The three largest are considered to be the Yoruba, the Igbo, and the Hausa. Yeah, you also have the Uhobo. You also have the names are slipping in my head at the moment. I'll come back to it. There's a name on the tip of my tongue, but there are many, yeah, in Nigeria. All right, Ogoni. That's what I was going with it. Yeah, and many others. Yeah, the Ogoni people. All right. You have the Ijao people. Yeah, many other groups of people in Nigeria. But like I said, the Hausa, the Yoruba, and the Igbo are the largest. All right, Ilori is a part of, before like colonization, before the British come and carve up, yeah, Nigeria into north and south of Nigeria. Sorry, carve up the people them land, Igbo land, Yoruba land, Hausa land into north and south Nigeria. Ilori, what is called Ilori, was already Yoruba land. All right, so this is a part of the ancestral land of the Yoruba people, and this is not just in a Nigeria or in the capital city. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, Abuja is in the north, yeah, and it's traditionally Hausa land. This is in Ilori, yeah, Yoruba land, that Isheshe, the tradition, the spiritual system of the Yoruba people, the indigenous spiritual system, our indigenous spiritual system is under threat. This is madness to me. Yeah, madness. And I find it difficult to know anywhere else in the world where such an absurdity would take place, other than among African people, where our indigenous spiritual systems are under attack by our own people who don't want our people who adhere to our indigenous spirituality to be able to practice and celebrate our indigenous spiritual systems. Yeah. And so it just gave me another reality check in terms of where we are at as African people, as far as decolonizing ourselves, our mind, and restoring dignity, yeah, to our indigenous culture and spirituality. All right. There is no restoration of the dignity of African culture that rejects African spirituality. It doesn't exist. All right. If Isheshe cannot have dignity in Yoruba land, then there is no decolonization in Yoruba land. Yeah. Anything else is madness. Complete craziness. And with that, kings and queens, we're gonna stop talk. Yeah, we're gonna stop talk and bring on those who have come through for the panel. If you want to come through and join the panel, kings and queens, yeah, click the link to watch on gotkushTV, and the link to join the chat is posted at the top of the chat. In fact, let me just share the link now. Yeah, we're going to democratize the thing. All right. Okay. Greetings, Set Imhotep in your warrior green.
Greetings.
Them are gonna start calling you a socialist.
I ain't gonna mix that too. So I'm like, give me a second, I have to plug in my mic.
Yes, sir. Greetings, Kale.
Greetings, son, brother. Imhotep, Shaka. It's going to be a deep night, you know, because we need to cover this, man. We need to cover it, man. We need to. Yes, we need to, man.
Yes, kid. Give thanks. I appreciate you both for supporting the thing regular and for coming through last week as well. Like I said, it was an interesting conversation. You know what I mean? You know, there's so many things we could have gone into, you know, in relation to that whole subject of victim mentality. And no doubt we'll come back to it in a second. But even since then, I've been recently preying, even in the discussion around affirmative action, they might talk about critical race theory, yeah, as though it has anything to do with affirmative action necessarily, right? But they've created this whole boogeyman, yeah, around affirmative action. All right, not affirmative action, critical race theory, yeah, deliberately speaking. But they've made of themselves victims, yeah, in this critical race theory discourse. They have created this boogeyman of black people in particular who want nothing more than to run down the white man and charge him with crimes, yeah, of being inherently and victimization of black people and it's a mad thing, bruv, that they've actually been able to do, yeah. You know what I'm saying, with this whole critical race theory, any issue, yeah, that speaks to justice on a racial level, they've managed to call it critical race theory, completely against what the thing actually is and what it means and so on and so forth, but make of themselves victims of critical race theorists in the process, yeah. And not only have they been able to do that in America, but they've also imported that to the UK. So that's a very interesting.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, when you're ready, Imhotep, let me know. But for now, Kale, go on through, King.
Yeah, man. I can't remember the woman's name, man. But we were speaking to her on the Discord. It's a sister still from America, and we was having a little debate because she the one that come up with the critical race theory, and she was saying, you know, big up to the sister, but it's very unsynchronized because it's pushing us the blame. Racism on us and not putting it on those who are the victimizers. We should try and get her up on the channel if possible, but she was basically saying that if we can kind of not see any color, then racism will go away. And I cannot believe in that, let alone sleep good thinking that. Yeah, man, it's not good, man.
Yeah, this has been a talking point from a lot of black people who don't want to actually confront racial injustice, and more importantly, want to find excuses for not organizing as African people and building for African people and by African people. Okay. This is a justification for completely absorbing ourselves into Western empire, particularly America, Britain, and France. These are the places that I mostly hear these arguments come from. Yeah. So, for example, you hear some years ago, the actor Morgan Freeman did do an interview where my lick out against Black History Month, and in the interview, him never mentioned nothing about the origin of Black History Month, where it come from, why it was started, nothing like that. Him say we for that's Black History Month because them never have no White History Month, and and the way to get rid of racism is to stop talking about race, basically. Yeah, so if we stop talking about race, then all issues of racism will be solved. This is the same argument that you're gonna get from the Black conservative industrial complex, most of the neoliberal talking heads, all over the place. They like to de-emphasize the issue of race, and one of the talking points majorly is that it's basically painting Black people as perpetual victims, when in actual fact what they're afraid of is that African people begin to have an organizational foundation on the basis of our race. Yeah, they're trying to dismantle one of the organizational foundations for African development. Yeah, so all of these other arguments are just red herrings, yeah, smoke screens, yeah, for what they're really actually afraid of, which is the idea of solidarity, common unity, and organization among African peoples of the world. Yeah, and so anything that affirms that, from a Black or African identity to the celebration of Black History Month, to red, black, and green being used during the celebration of Juneteenth. So anything, yeah, that would seek to go in that direction must be attacked. Yeah, and this kind of color blindness, because color blindness allows the people that promote this narrative, to engage in white society without it feeling like a contradiction to them. So they don't have to recognize or pay attention to the condition of the masses of African people where they are living. And they certainly don't have to pay attention to the condition of the masses of African people anywhere else in the rest of the world, especially as it relates to how Britain, America, France, etc. Relate to those nations in terms of the power dynamics geopolitically. So I don't know the sister's name, but we'll see in it. We'll see, depending on who she is. And what she'll deal with, we'll see if we can get her on the panel. Well, let me just big up a couple people in the chat. Big up the Meloman, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Big up the Meloman over there. Bigging up Melanated Goddess, Truth to Power Millions. I don't know if I pronounce that one, but Thai 313, I think it is. If let me know if that's supposed to be some kind of tree, something like that. I'm supposed to pronounce that differently. I don't really believe that James O. I don't think I'm missing anybody else out, yeah, as far as those who have typed. Oh, Leo, yeah, bring up Leo as well. All right, yeah, that's an interesting one. The color blindness thing is a growing argument, you know, and quite frankly, it's understandable. Like I said, the people in my comment, it's more it's safer, yeah, to align with white empire than it is to go ahead, King.
Regarding that, well, can I be heard clearly?
Kinda, yeah. You're not as clear as you usually are.
Interesting. If it doesn't work, I'll just take it off and go back to the usual. Am I any better? Oh, really?
Yeah, go on top. We can't hear you still. We can't hear you. Go on top.
Regarding the critical race theory conversation and the propaganda surrounding it, would it be okay if I shared my screen for a second?
Yeah, man. Got you.
Okay, can we see this? Twitter?
Yes, sir.
All right, so the
Yep.
And
Go on through.
the idea of critical race theory as a negative thing was consciously created and pushed by this gentleman in particular, otherwise unremarkable conservative activist who had a very good uh, idea. And we have this article here as well, the New Yorker piece is in the back chat for you to share
Yep.
it.
No,
Stream.
I'm familiar with it still. But go through.
Right. So in it, the point in any case was just that we really need to not buy into any of the foolish arguments against critical race theory in the first place because it has nothing to do with being taught in high schools and that kind of stuff. It's
Nothing.
illegal.
Exactly.
You understand? And unless you're studying law, you're very unlikely to encounter critical race theory.
Right.
And this controversy, I suppose, which the gentleman latched onto. I can stop sharing.
No, wait, keep sharing it. Keep sharing it for a second.
Sorry about that. Right. Yeah. The particular scenario that this gentleman latched onto was a anti-bias diversity training that a particular corporation may have been. I don't know how good it was. I can't speak to the training itself. But it's just so funny, the idea that this entire thing sparked from an attempt to have these people confront their biases, and instead of doing a little introspection, they went, you know what? Nah, I think we could be even more racist. You know.
You know what? I'm gonna come back because and the funny thing is, I don't even disagree with what you're saying. I'm not even a fan of bias training and all kind of stupidness there. But the point is well taken. That like instead of like just a mild act, of confronting your biases, the people have said no, we can't do with that. They weren't even prepared to do that, But the reason why I asked to bring this back is I actually want to read it, all right? So the point that Imhotep is making, is that the whole furor around critical race theory was completely fabricated. Not only was it completely fabricated, the individual responsible, for fabricating it, admitted it on Twitter, This is the impunity of these individuals. They admit it openly. They declare and say, this is the agenda. This is what we are doing. All right. So he said,
"This is archived Twitter. This is still up.
This is still up. He hasn't even deleted it. Right? Right? What's it called? He says, we have successfully frozen their brand, critical race theory, into the public conversation and are steadily driving up negative perceptions. We will eventually turn it toxic as we put all of the various cultural insanities that are under that brand category. So they're openly admitting that whatever them consider to be cultural insanities, they're going to put it under the critical race theory banner, whether it belongs there or not. This is beyond now. This is beyond whether you agree with critical race theory or not. And maybe one day we'll do a show on it, what it actually is, because there's some good articles out there that explain what it actually is. This is beyond whether you are an adherent of critical race theory or not. Just understanding what it is. A couple Black History Months ago, maybe 2020 or 2021. Kemi Badenoch, UK parliamentarian, MP, the British Parliament. All right, stand up, the Parliament. This is Black History Month. They had a parliamentary session dealing with Black History Month, and this woman went into a whole diatribe about critical race theory and how it's being taught in secondary schools. in Britain, not a Nagosa. Literally not a Nagosa. Now I'm gonna tell you something about Christopher Ruffer in a second, because we have to educate the people in, right? So what's happening here? What's happening here is, like the other day, a couple of weeks ago, I spoke about the National Conservatism Conference. All right. And when we say conservatism, by the way, we're talking big C conservatism, like political conservatism. We're not talk just like social conservatism, where them say, you know, family values and all them things. That's not what we're talking about. That's a smoke screen conservatism. We're talking about actual political conservatism. Yeah, we're talking about adherence of free market fundamentalism, neo liberalism. Yeah, white power in the geopolitical Western sense of the terminology. Yeah, and that is not a friend of political party. This goes across the political spectrum in terms of what is considered to be conservative on one hand and liberal on the other hand, as far as politics in Britain and America is concerned, or the English speaking world is concerned. The Labour Party is just as neoliberal and invested in the geopolitical Western white project as is the Conservative, and so is the Democratic Party just as neoliberal and invested in neo-colonial policies as the Republican Party. So when I talk about party affiliation right here now, yeah, when I talk, all right, be very clear about that, yeah. But the National Conservatism Conference, yeah, featured speakers from Britain, from America, and from Canada, and possibly Australia. Yeah, I could be wrong on the last one, but definitely Britain, America, and Canada were featured at that National Conservative. We can done the sharing now. All right, conference. Yeah. So the other side to this is that Christopher Rufo, yeah, Christopher Rufo is a fellow of the Manhattan Institute, yeah, which is a think tank. Okay, one of them think tank there in the United States of America. All right, but the think tank was established by a British man, yeah, called Anthony Fisher. All right. And so significantly, there's a whole history that we're going to go into at some point and in another setting, yeah, in terms of the relationship between think tanks in America and Britain, their relationship to each other, and how they have driven political talk, discussion, policy, yes, and ideas, yeah, for the last half a century at least, all right? And also how they have nitpicked different black talking heads to front their agenda at different points. Yeah, this is all very well orchestrated. I want people to understand. When you see all these things, it's not all random. Yes, there is significant levels of organization behind. When you see a thing like critical race theory pop up and it's just all over the place, just so. Yeah, all right, and nobody know what it is. Yeah, but it's the biggest talking point as a means for obscuring certain issues, yeah, that we have as African people and the discussions around them, defining the conversation, defining the narrative, etc., etc., etc. Coffee, if that is Coffee Campbell, has joined us.
Yo, big up.
Yeah, blessings. Got you.
Yeah, man. Big up here, yeah. Yeah, attack the conservative industrial complex as usual.
Of course.
You know?
No apology.
Yeah, man. All right. So, critical race theory, right? Is supposed to be a figment of people's imagination. Incidentally, it's the same thing them did say about all the other kind of ism that's in the schools now that we can't talk about because it's so controversial. You know, interesting enough, people were denying that those kind of isms were also in the elementary schools in America, but you know, nowadays I can't deny it because the internet exposed all of that. So these isms, these very, very controversial isms are in the elementary school. So when people say critical race theory is not in the elementary school, I think it's more like a gaslighting thing, you know. My definition of critical race theory, based on how I understand it, is just the black version of critical theory. And of course, critical theory is the German Marxist philosophy. from the Frankfurt School come over to America. And of course, black Marxists just copy it and call it critical race theory, right? And the original creators of it was people like Derek Bell and them one day. And it was really about, just like critical theory is about attacking the traditional institutions, especially in the courts or the justice system, how they run, and try to change it, right? So they try to change America from within. Unlike Soviet Russia, that was, changed from a violent revolution, they wanted to change the institutions, the so-called long march through the institutions to overturn the dominant mores and values to a new kind of value that's more amenable to socialism, right? Yeah, that's my take on critical race theory. And it's not just ascon in Ivy League law schools. It's very much in the society, because it's just like critical theory, it's all about changing society, which can be a good thing, can be a bad thing, depends on what that change means, yeah? So, yeah, tell me why I am wrong.
Because no one ever said that critical race theory is a figment of anybody's imagination. What was being said is that what is publicly being put forward as critical race theory is not in fact critical race theory, is in fact a caricature, yes, of what it actually is for a particular purpose. So one is entitled, yeah, to disagree with, debate, attack critical race theory if they're actually attacking what it actually is. Yeah, it is the point I'm making, at least. All right. And with that being said, I'm just going to point people to an article, a piece. Yeah, it's pretty long, so we're not going to read it, but I'm just going to bring it up for you. Yeah, as and for anybody who wants to explore this issue a little piece more. It's an article by a man by the name of Tommy J. Curry. Okay, famous for a book, which is a very important book as well, called The Man Not. Yeah. And the article is called Will the Real Critical Race Theory Please Stand Up? Yeah. And so he's looking at critical race theory. Yeah, just wait for it to load. Forgive me for the long thing. But he's looking at critical race theory in terms of what Derek Bell, yeah, who is the person who's credited with originating the thing, yeah, was actually dealing with. Okay, he's also challenging some of its evolution as promoted by people like Kimberly Crenshaw. Yeah, like I said, agree or disagree with her or whatever. There are people who are in that tradition, and there are people who are not. Yeah, and so what Tommy J. Curry does is he critiques the overall popular conversation. Please don't tell me that have I dropped off? Can you all still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, so I make sure that there's something not fear me.
Well, your
all
slide
right?
propaganda. I'm sorry, your slideshow not coming up.
Yeah. No, but let me say this here. When we're talking about Tommy J. Curry, we're talking about a serious scholar. Yeah. So we're not talking about any joke business scholar. We're talking about I believe officially he's a sociologist, or I could be wrong about that. Yeah. But somebody who's well studied in these matters. Yeah. And so when you read the piece, all right, you'll realize that we're not fabricating here. Okay. Yeah. And by the way, as you can see, as far as what has just been said in terms of propaganda, this article was written long before the recent conversation. Okay. So we're not just talking about in response to the recent conversation.
Is it fair to say that? Is it fair to say that?
No, 1 second, right? So the other point that the idea, and I'm not what's the word? an expert on critical race theory. Okay, so let's bear that in mind. Yeah, I'm not an expert on critical race theory. Having said that, the idea that critical race theory as developed in the 1960s and 70s was designed as a means for assessing the ways in which the criminal justice system, the legal system in America, negatively impacts African people. Yes. That would be factual. The idea that it was designed to propose methodologies, yeah, for African people to withstand those negative impacts, and in doing so, change, yeah, the systematic nature or the system that was responsible for those impacts. I believe would be true also. So I'm failing to see what would be wrong with that coming out of that. Why attacking and addressing what would manifestly be true as far as white supremacy within the American legal system and its effect on African people, why that would be an incorrect thing for an African to engage in.
No, but you switch. Come on, you switch the argument. No, I mean, before you were denying that agents of change were in the institutions. Now you're saying that, well, it's a good cause anyway. You know what I mean? So
no, you're wrong. And I'm not sure where I deny that agents of change were in the institutions. No,
hold on. The whole argument about denying critical race theory in the elementary schools in America, or even the high schools in America, is the argument that you were putting forward before I call in.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'm saying it doesn't exist. Yeah, this is something.
Okay, so what I'm saying.
Sorry, just to clarify, it's a theory within law. Yes, that you're going to study if you are in higher education. You're generally not going to study this before you get to university.
And I am saying it is more than a theory of law. Just like critical theory also includes a critique of the justice system, because as Marxists, they're critiquing everything: the family, the justice system, the schools, the religious institutions, etc. So of course, it's not just gonna be escond or
sorry, what's the problem there though? Let's say, for example,
no, I'm not saying.
First and foremost, the legal system in America existed before Marx, and Africans have been critiquing the legal system from long before Marx. So what would be the problem, even from a Marxist point of view, in critiquing the legal system?
Okay, so you notice I never said it was wrong to do that, or right. Derek Bell was wrong. I am saying
it's not being denied that critical race theory is designed to critique the American legal system.
Not just critique, but change it.
So so what would be if it is so designed to do? What would be the problem with that? That's the point I'm making. We're talking about a situation. Like
I'm saying that's a different topic now. Before you were denying,
but we're talking about critical race theory.
Yes,
as it actually is, not the
in
character.
The schools.
No,
in the schools.
But no, hold on. You have made the statement that this thing was designed to challenge and critique the American justice system. Yes, and to change it. I'm saying
because laws foundation, laws are
right. So I'm saying let's say we agree on that point. What is the problem with that?
There is no problem with it, okay. as long as you're attacking the illiberal aspects of the justice system, the aspects that don't protect Black people's property and individual rights. However, Derek Bell, as a socialist, that was not his intention. His was a critique of liberalism and the whole meritocracy behind it, right? Well, he was saying that.
You had a preface your
contribution by like, this is your opinion that it is only worthwhile, critical race theory is only worthwhile if it is attacking the illiberal parts of society as you would describe them. That is your opinion.
Of course, in my opinion, you know, me attack.
Yeah, but
almost my opinion.
the point is that your opinion is, while relevant, is irrelevant to a definition of what.
Hold on, I'm not going around to that.
One second. So you're entitled. One second. You're entitled to debate the merits of the actual theory as it is. What we're talking about here is whether anybody is entitled to create a caricature of the thing and begin attacking the caricature as though it's a thing. That's what we're talking about here.
Look. Opponents are going to caricature other people's arguments. You caricature my capitalist arguments. Opponents of Afrocentricity caricature Afrocentricity.
Of course. And then when we engage them, we engage the veracity of their caricature in terms of the truth of what Afrocentricity is or not. That's the point I'm making. So what now I'm saying about the debate around whether critical race theory is designed to attack the justice system and so on and so. The justice system, as far as African people is concerned, needed
that's a different argument you're making.
Hold on.
That wasn't the argument.
There is no debate around that. What we're talking about is its use as a political tool, a caricature with particular political objectives in mind, and analyzing the political objectives.
Tell me how them caricature critical race theory.
Again, we just read the man who is responsible for creating the caricature and popularizing the talking points that were later picked up by President Donald Trump has already said. He told you what it was. The agenda was to bring any cultural issue where them not like under the banner of critical race theory. Them done say it already.
So therefore, if critical, and that's not too far from the truth, if critical race theory is attacking the foundations of the liberal order, right? The foundations of liberalism, the foundations of family. Please remember that Black Lives Matter also attacked the foundations of the nuclear family, right? And there's no reason
to associate those two conversations.
No,
I don't think I will. Hold on. I think I need to address that there's no reason to correlate those two in this discussion. Black Lives Matter doesn't have anything to do with critical race theory
at all.
Oh Jesus! Black Lives Matter was started by some black women who came out of the university who describe themselves as Marxists and have the same kind of critique. Was
their education in law, and would they have encountered critical race theory in education?
You know what? I'm not even going to deny that there may be people.
So you know why I hear me now. You know why I'm talking. All right.
You can talk, bro. You've been
okay, good. So the nature of the critique, all of these are allies. Antifa, Black Lives Matter, and the other kind of isms that we can't talk about, right? All these people are allies in attacking the liberal foundations of America, right? The idea of property rights, the idea of individualism, the capitalism, all these things they're attacking, right?
Same way that the UNIA and the KKK could be allies in getting Africans out of America and having them have like a solid foundation elsewhere outside of America, doesn't mean that the two organizations have the same ideological focus or direction.
No, because KKK and the UN aren't Marxists or capitalists.
Not the UN,
Black
the
Lives
UNIA.
Matter. Black Lives. UN. Sorry. Black Lives Matter, Antifa, and the other wokeism that we can't talk about. They are all socialists of varying degrees. All of them anti-capitalist. All of them attack liberalism.
If they are though, because this is the point I'm trying to make. If they are,
you too, you ally with them too.
If they are,
you anti-capitalist.
If you say so, if you say so. Kangol PI. Tenamwari family. I'll check if it there. Greetings. I'm gonna come to you in a second. Yeah. So all tight.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, what I say is that
hold on there. All right. So the point that is being made, yeah, is that once again, you are entitled to disagree with critical race theory. What you are not entitled to do is create a caricature of it and its founders and or evolvers. I don't know that Derek Bell self-identifies as a Marxist. Yeah, even if the idea of critical theory, and I'm not sure that it is, but even if the idea of critical theory was drawn from a Marxist influence, drawing something from a Marxist influence doesn't make one a Marxist any more than drawing something from a capitalist influence makes one a capitalist. Right. So the idea,
the very name of the discipline draws from Marxism.
The idea, no, because the idea that being a
critical
theory in relation to the American criminal justice, it's as though this is what neoliberals do, and people that are allegiant to particularly American or Western Empire in general, because they've created a whole, they have invested a lot in the Marxist, communist, socialist caricature. They tend to try and do the same thing that Christopher Rufo does with critical race theory. Put everything under its umbrella because they've already developed a framework for attacking it. And I'm saying that Marxism operates within the academy in particular ways, whereby it can influence theories and ideas that are not inherently Marxist because it's a part of the academy. People study Marxism. All right. So the idea that critical race theory is a Marxist theory and a Marxist analysis is
a branch of Marxism. Definitely a branch of Marxism.
It's something that would need to be born true. It's something that would need to be born true by actually studying critical race theory. What we are saying, however, is that what is being done today, separate from what critical race theory is and what an in-depth study of it would produce, the conclusion that it would produce, there is a particular movement that exists today that has manifestly and expressly decided to use critical race theory as a talking point and create a caricature around it for attacking things that they don't agree with.
Because
any conversation about race in particular and racial injustice, and create this idea that the critical race theorist wants to inject, it's been used really as a tool for saving the face of America in relation to its history in relation to African people. Yeah, so you can't teach American history in terms of the enslavement of African people, in terms of Jim Crow, in terms of segregation, in terms of the terrorism, yeah, that has been inflicted against African people since the inception, in fact, before the inception of the United States of America, that their history must be told in ways that speak to and result in the aggrandizement of America. Yes, that is what is taking place. No, it's about Marxism. All these people want, yeah, is for America to be lauded unquestionably among African people, and for African people to not form an analysis of American society that is born from the experiences of African people. That is it. Racial lens to be on the eyes of Africans when we look at America. That is all I take it right.
Yo, somebody are shuffle.
Kangle, I'm gonna meet you.
Yo, what I say now is there is nothing in what you said a while ago that I would find issue with. Slavery is being taught in the schools. Segregation is being taught in the elementary schools. Yeah, and but again, it all depends on how you teach it. So therefore, a conservative teaching or a libertarian teaching of that history would say, despite these obstacles, it was liberalism that allowed the country to attack and overcome these obstacles, right? However, from a critical race theory point of view, from a Marxist point of view, it says that liberalism is inherently fascistic and inherently racist, and there was no overcoming because America is a capitalist economy that the
But
rich
that's not what
is
it
a
says
place.
actually.
Let me just
What
let
it
me just
say,
why am I tell you? You know, just stop bouncing yourself. Anyway, so may I
Listen,
say,
does
right?
critical race theory teach what you are describing right now, or are you just describing what you are considering Marxism? If critical race theory does not teach this part of Marxism, which you are
Let me finish. Let me
referencing,
finish what
then
I'm
it
saying.
is
Let me finish
correct.
what I'm
Just
saying.
answer the question first. Now, does critical race theory actually teach this? What
Yes,
you were just
yes.
describing?
Derek Bell was
Go ahead.
against liberalism. He
But
attacked liberalism, the
it
very
doesn't matter if Derek
foundation.
Bell is against. It doesn't matter if Derek Bell is against liberalism. I can't speak for him. But it matters on whether or not critical race theory teaches these things.
Also, yeah, separate Bell from look.
No,
Look,
hear
every
me say,
school of thought, every
You will
school.
let's clarify this thing, yeah, because and I think Coffee knows this, and you're using this term liberalism very skillfully at the moment.
No, Derek Bell uses it. Read them.
All on there.
Read the critical race theories.
I'm aware that Derek Bell uses the term liberal. Again, I'm not an expert on critical race theory. I'm not claiming to be an expert on critical race theory. And this conversation does not require one. Does not require no. But you brought it up. I was bringing it up in a different context. I really still not an expert on critical race theory. And my discourse on critical race theory did not require me to be an expert on critical race theory. One thing I do know, however, about Derek Bell is that he was a critic of the liberal establishment as well as the conservative establishment. So we're not talking about liberalism as you're defining it as.
No, he was talking about
one second, sorry. One second, please. Liberalism, as far as left and right politics in America, is different from liberalism as a philosophy governing the political development of Western empire from the 1700s. And the 1900s. We're talking about two different things, right? So, for example, for those who are not aware, one second. For example, for those who are not aware, the left in this country and in America is considered to be liberal. The Labour Party, the Democratic Party. The right in this country and in America is considered to be conservative. Yeah, the Conservative Party, literally speaking, and the Republican Party, and you have various different shades on either side of those spectrums. There was a critique coming out of the Black Power movement and other movements in America of white liberalism. Yes, political liberalism, not the philosophical liberalism, right? But the political liberalism.
No, it was philosophical also.
One second, please. No, well, I'm not going to deny that there was a critique of the philosophical.
Okay.
Well,
Okay,
but
good.
in this context, that's not what we're referring to. Okay.
Yes,
now,
Bell was a part of that.
One second. What Bell is actually criticizing and saying is inherently racist is America. Yeah, Bell is saying America is an inherently racist nation.
Yes, but he's tying America to liberalism.
One second. That the argument is that racism is baked into the fabric of the nation state of America and its institutions.
Yes.
And that racism, by being embedded in the nature of the American society and in the fabric of America's geopolitical establishment in the world, is fundamentally baked into its legal system, which is what he was primarily concerned with, right?
Yes.
So none of those statements from America being fundamentally racist, from racism and white supremacy being baked into the fabric of America, and that baking into the fabric of America being represented in the legal system, none of those statements are not factually true.
You know what I'm getting from Brother Kofi, ShakaRa.
Let me just address that.
Go on. I just want to say, what I'm getting from you, Brother Kofi, you're having a hard time generalizing non-African people as a whole. You know, racism, the communism, it doesn't matter which group they're in, brother, and you know this, they collectively have the power.
I'm not sure he does. You have to bear in mind that, my brother, that when one takes on liberalism, the philosophical liberalism of the Enlightenment thinkers, it's interesting to me that said individuals tend to tacitly or openly, covertly or overtly, become defenders of America and Britain as nations.
All right, before you start going into that, let me just address what you said about.
And after you say this, I'm going to go to Kangol. Yeah, after you say that.
Right. So when Bell attacked the institutions in America and said America is inherently racist and flawed, he's attacking liberalism also. That's the root, because he is a socialist, he's a Marxist. And like all Marxists, they follow Marxist critique of liberalism. as rugged individualism, as fracturing community, and etc. So whereas a Thomas Sowell would say America is racist and sexist, but capitalism, i.e. liberalism, provides the institutions that addresses those discriminatory practices better than other systems proposed. That's different from when Bell said, no, liberalism have to go, right? Liberalism cannot properly address racism, sexism, classism, etc. Wherever it is, in America or wherever, that has to go. So what he's really attacking is liberalism. He's not saying, well, okay, Africa can adopt liberalism and they will flourish and have flourishing institutions, etc. No, he's saying liberalism is the root. That's the poison.
I could respond to that. I'm going to open up to Kangol. I'll come back to the response in a second. Kangol, PI, Tenamwari King.
Tenamwari. Let me show my face real quick. Cut my camera on.
Feel free to do so, my brother.
I
recognize you from some other platforms.
Yeah, I be on Netter and yeah.
Yes,
it's an honor being on your show.
I feel like I have to go around and get my berry now, because it's like a berry show today, you know what I mean?
Everybody have on them berry, trust me.
I have to go get my berry, you know what I mean?
Yo, it's an army.
Go on, you can go. Go on, you.
Yeah, this is what I wanted to say. I hear what the brother that looked like Peter Tosh is saying. I get exactly what he's saying. But to be honest, though, Marxism as a political entity that actually meant something is honestly dead. It died during the Cold War. So, and the people that are on the right, they know this because what would you say, brother?
No, I said, of course I do. Continue.
Yeah, they already know. So when I hear people say, yes, the Marxist propaganda, no, Marxism has been dead since the 80s. So, they're kind of, I think you call it dog whistling and everything like that. And even another thing on critical race theory, that has to deal with law. And then like with America, and I'm gonna say this one last thing. Mm-hmm. With America, it's not America is literally banning books necessarily. It's like parents that are in like high schools and middle schools that are voting that certain books like Beloved shouldn't be used in teaching curriculums.
Beloved. So it's Morrison, Beloved.
Right. So it's not necessarily it's not what you think it is necessarily, if you get what I'm saying. It's something. It's not like
This is it's complete. I agree with you, my brother. You're saying that it's completely different. Beloved has nothing to do with critical race theory, right? Literally nothing to do with critical. But they're getting this book banned under the banner of it being critical race theory.
Who is banning Beloved?
There are books that these parents of schools,
who is banning?
He just said he is the parents in these high schools and stuff are getting together.
Beloved?
You have to ask the brother Kango, okay, but I'm telling you what he just said.
So you're asking who is banning the books, right? It's really parents that are voting with like school boards that are saying we don't want our children reading Beloved or Mouse, which is a kind of a political satire on the Holocaust. So it's not necessarily an American-wide thing. It has something to do with the school district. So I think Black parents need to be more, present in these school districts and et cetera. So, but Marxism isn't really a problem. It's dead,
You believe in local community control of schools? Or you think schools should be controlled from like far away bureaucrats?
Sorry, that's not that's a red herring.
Yo, Mayo, let the youth answer now. Stop jumping on my.
He tried to throw me. He tried to throw me a Bucky Rich to throw me off. Like, wait a minute.
So answer now.
We're not catch the
The
ball.
answer
We're
now.
not catch the ball. We let the ball slide. That's what
Yo,
the point.
Shaka.
The
Yo, I
question-
said
hold
this
on. The question is not about whether that's a good
Of
conversation
course,
to have.
of course,
No,
it's
hold on.
relevant.
That is a good conversation to have, yeah, right? But the question right now is the political agenda behind the caricature of critical race theory. That is the point. Right?
Okay, how was I wrong, Shaka?
Hold on. We're discussing whether the caricature represents what it actually is. You, I, Imhotep, Kangal, Kiel, anybody in the chat is entitled to disagree with and debate the merits of critical race theory. That should not require us to buy into a complete fabrication for a
critical race theory.
that is designed to save the face of America from being criticized by black people. That's all it is.
Yeah,
They
man, good.
want African people in America to have a view of America that is defined by the positioning of Africans relative to the nation state of America since its inception. That is all it is. Yeah.
Okay,
and
so
correct when him say that this idea about Marxism is complete foolishness, because I've said it before. You may, I don't know if you heard me say this before, my brother, if you've been watching before, but the Soviet Union and communism has not been a significant geopolitical force since the late 1980s. Yes, and no, these people, can continue in a victim mentality. Excuse me, to create this communist boogeyman to keep attacking. Because, like I said, they have invested a whole leap in this caricature. So they're going to fling everything in it. Anything that challenges the system as it is, they're going to them do it to Garvey, them do it to Lumumba,
if Marxism is irrelevant,
them do it to
who is Cornel West?
1 second. Them do it to
Who is Cornel West?
Wait, hold on. Wait a minute.
Them do it. 1 second. Them do it to Martin Luther King. Yes, them do it to everybody. Yeah.
Good. So if Marxism is irrelevant, who is Cornel West, number one? Number two.
Wait a minute.
Hold on. Who's Cornel West?
I never said that Marxism is irrelevant. What I said was
that
it has been a significant
geopolitical
1990s.
But that's actually the only.
But I did speak about Cornel West at the beginning of the show. So if you want to talk about Cornel West, we can talk about Cornel West.
No, the brethren say Marxism irrelevant. That's what I said.
Say again.
So I do.
Make the American brethren talk. Yo, comrade, you said Marxism irrelevant, right?
Listen for a second. I do have a minor disagreement with the brother Campbell when he said that Marxism is dead for the minor reason that ideology is not alive, it can never die, right? In the first place, right? But I do agree with brother ShakaRa. But I do agree with brother ShakaRa that Marxism or communism is not a significant geopolitical force and has not been since the 1980s. So the idea
intellectual force too.
Right, okay.
But I
wanted. So, Brother Coffee, if it is okay, I think I kind of understand where Brother Coffee was coming from earlier when he's saying that the CRTs in the schools. I think a better way to phrase that, and I hope you will correct me if I'm wrong. No, I hope you'll correct me if I'm wrong. Is that the effects of critical race theory, the effects of these people analyzing and attempting to change the systems, have entered into the schools. But if you were saying that the actual things that critical race theory is attempting to alleviate and bring into force are not problems, then even if it is in the secondary schools and the primary schools, the elementary, the high schools, or whatever, what is the problem that you personally have with CRT being, or the effects of CRT being in the elementary schools and the secondary schools?
All right, number one, the initial argument was denying that they're in the schools. That's why I was saying, no, they're actually in the schools. And right,
so I'm attempting to give you that by saying the effects of CRT may be in the schools, because apparently one of the cornerstone terms of CRT is intersectionality. And I don't doubt that intersectionality is being taught in secondary and primary schools in the United States.
I'm not even sure that's the case, but let's say it is. But your question is relevant. No, but we can. But that's the point. We are allowed. We made or have disagreement on what exactly constitutes critical race theory. I'm prepared to be educated on that as somebody who's not an expert. But the question is relevant. What is it that is in the schools, that you have a problem with, that you see is the problem that you are defining as critical race theory?
Well, if them attacking liberalism, which is what Derek Bell does, then I definitely have a problem with that.
Is not anything that you're aware of.
What is taking place in the school that is an attack on liberalism? The American but on the left and the right is dedicated to liberalism, right? As a political and social theory, So what is it in these schools that is attacking liberalism?
First of all, you said conservative and party, Labour Party, Democrat and Republican. Those are all neoliberal parties, right?
100%, yes.
Is the Libertarian Party a neoliberal?
No, but that's a different subject. You're changing the question.
No, man. Hold on, man.
Answer the question. It's a simple thing. Answer the question.
That may I say.
No, answer the question.
That's simple, yes or no.
What is in the schools? The question that Imhotep asked you. When they are the people in them school that represents an attack on liberalism as you see it. What does that mean? It's very vague. So all right, for example, when the people them that
I was going to explain to you.
I'll give you an example. When the people them that Christopher Rue for them no one the people them teach about slavery and 1619, for example. That's one thing that they attack. They don't them say a critical race theory, whereby they teach about slavery in particular ways that make slavery look like it was unique to America or some nonsense, right? Some nonsense talking point. So what is being taught in the schools, something as specific as that you believe is wrong or is a problem as far as you're calling it critical race theory?
All right, so slavery and Jim Crow is already being taught in the schools, from a long time.
No, but the issue is not what that is being taught or not.
I am getting around to it, Virgin, right? These things are already being taught. But they're being taught from the perspective that these practices were illiberal, and therefore it is the liberalism and the liberal institutions and the ideals that allow America, as opposed to Ottoman Empire, to overcome, to abolish, and to desegregate, etc., etc. That's the mainstream historical view in the schools in America today. What the critical race theorists attack and say no, especially the 1619 project, and say no, it is capitalism was the root, right? Capitalism caused slavery, and it is capitalism that is at the root of America's problems, right? And that's false.
Hold on. Can I say something real quick? I just want to ask the brother a quick question.
But you don't answer my question. Why if you do that?
Have you read Capitalism and Slavery by Eric Williams?
Oh, good. Hey, talk about that boy. Talk about that book now, boy. Hey.
That's all I gotta add.
He always on this platform by talking capitalism and slavery when it has yet to be debunked. You understand? And it specifically links the development of slavery and the institution of Atlantic slavery and the racism that came after the institution of slavery to the development of capitalism.
Hold on there. Everybody, hold on there. There's another person on the panel. I believe I know who this is, but we're gonna see.
I would love to. First of all, yes.
I'll come back to you. Hold on there. Stay on topic.
Yeah, man, bless up, man. So I'm very happy to catch this conversation. Can reveal a lot of things. The point you made earlier about like them blanketing stuff with critical race theory as a label. If you notice, they do it with woke as well, and Kofi does it with Marxists. So anything Kofi do, like, you automatically make it a Marxist. You know what I mean? So I just think it's a nice program. You know what I mean?
You are a Marxist.
the reality is that this is a well-established principle from like I think a couple shows ago I mentioned McCarthyism. Yeah, let's call anybody with them not like call them a communist. Yeah, and so it obscures everything, anything. It read into Derek Bell.
And everybody you don't like, you call neoliberal.
And no, not really. No, there's many people who I don't align with, and I disagree.
No, not really. Everybody you don't like, you call me neoliberal. I'm not a neoliberal.
You are a neoliberal. That's
okay, good. Okay, good. Fine, good.
Yeah, you literally presented on that.
Yeah, literally. Like every week you come and defend neoliberalism. It's like, that's not even a question. I don't even know why that's a question, right? But let's
move because 200 guilt are the same thing. All right, so capitalism.
One second. Remember, the brethren don't say already, that if you are attacking America, you are attacking liberalism. Yeah, that's this appears to be the point.
Who said that?
You said that earlier in the show.
No.
You said that in so many words.
I'm saying.
We're ready for go rewrite the show and play it for you. Where's that while?
All right, good. Listen again. I'm saying that when the critical race theories attack America, they're really attacking liberalism. In other words, that is the real target. The racism, the slave, that's just the cover. What they really don't like is the whole idea of property and individual rights.
That's for us, my brother. That's what Sorry, Imhotep.
Yeah, because you don't read.
Sorry, Imhotep. Right? Sorry, Imhotep. One second, Coffee. The problem, the issue is what you did a minute ago was fabricate, right? The 1619 project, as far as I have read it, is not attacking capitalism. It's addressing. Listen. It's addressing fundamentally the historiography of America and attempting to resituate the American project from a 1776 narrative to a 1619 narrative around the enslavement of African people.
If you read that book, what was Professor Baptiste about?
I haven't read the entire book.
Okay. Well, read Professor Baptiste's piece in that 1619.
No. I'm not denying that there are people who are leftist or Marxist leaning
who attack capitalism
that would agree with the 1619 project. What I am saying is
he's a part of the.
That was not. I'm not denying that, my brother. The 1619 project in part was influenced by a man by the name of Gerald Horne, who is.
It was influenced by Karl Marx.
One second, right? At the same time, and this is the point, right? So now what happens is any movement of, same thing I said, any movement of African people must be seen through the lens of Marxism and communism in order for America and the American establishment and the Western establishment to find a reason to attack it and a means for attacking it. Because in actual fact, the African-centered narrative around these issues, is not that liberalism abolished slavery. It's not that
we're talking about Afrocentric now. Hold on, we changed to Afrocentric.
Sorry, I'm not finished. Neither of those things. It is the African people fighting against enslavement, rebelling against enslavement, burning down plantation, demonstrating and protesting against lynching, segregation,
and
terrorism. And the terrorism that was inflicted upon Africans in America, for in somewhere in the region of a century, is in fact what changed those systems.
So who argued that?
But the those who are attacking that narrative do not want Africans to see our agency in our capacity to fight against them. They want.
Who is arguing that a while ago? CRT or Afrocentric?
Listen to what I am saying. Thank you.
No, I'm trying to clarify. I didn't hear.
Will be clarified when we're done. All right. The reality is this. So this idea that liberalism did, and the idea is that either capitalism is under attack and liberalism, and it's Marxism. No, the idea is that African people should be centered in our own narratives. That's the idea. Okay.
Afrocentricity.
Right. Sorry, excuse me, please. I'm not finished. All right. And not even just Afrocentricity. The
CRT.
the 1619 project is not
lie. Not go so.
endeavor.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
One second. Although it may have arguments that lend itself to an Afro-centered, or may even be influenced by an African-centered narrative. Yeah, but the reality is, generally speaking, the 1619 project is about black people being the best of what is America, and so on and so forth. That's how it's promoted, right?
Yeah.
But the point is that the dichotomy here, or the choices here, is not between liberalism, yes, and Marxism. The choices between, for African people, the choices between our own agency, our own African-centered agency, yes, and the system itself, and buying into the institutions and absorbing ourselves into the institutions themselves. And you're right to say that when Africans are attacking America, these white Americans and their think tanks and their institutions and so on and so forth consider it to be an attack against their very person, because they want to hypervalorize.
I never said that. You're twisting my words.
I'm not talking about you. I literally just said who I'm talking about, and you're just simply defending them, right? What's it called?
No, can you bring a strong man?
No, it's not a strong man. This is what they're doing. They are concerned about the image of America. They are concerned about the narrative and whether it paints America in a positive or a negative light vis-a-vis its African people, right? And so, because America puts itself forward as the bastion of democracy and liberalism and so on and so forth, and has consistently and continues to fail in relation to providing the benefits of all of that to its own citizens of African descent, let alone the Africans around the world that it continues to neo-colonize. Yes, it is easy for Africans, when we are judging things from our own historical context, to expose the fallacy and the hypocrisy of this nation and its narrative in relation to its actual actions. Yeah.
Okay. So
for some reason, there are many African people who seem to have a problem with the actions of this nation state being exposed.
Yeah. Okay, good. So therefore, the USSR, Union of Socialist Soviet Republics, they declare themselves socialists, and a socialist today will tell you, well, that's not real socialism because they didn't live up to socialism. Yes. So even though the Soviet Union didn't live up to socialism, that don't stop some black people from adopting socialism. So if America don't live up to liberalism, I don't know why it should stop black people from saying, yeah, liberalism is the ideal, and we should live up to it. So that's one. Two.
Yeah. When Angelo is on the platform, because you critique for that socialism foolishness that you're exposing right now, I don't think anybody.
All right, two.
I don't think anybody who's actually a socialist would, in so simple terms and so generalizing terms, speak about the USSR as opposed to speaking about it in very specific periods and when socialism was on its way to being achieved.
So you're apologizing for USSR, just like how black conservatives apologize.
I didn't say anything negative about the USSR. I simply spoke about the fact that there are periods in the USSR that need to be analyzed in
Do you know why it don't matter? Because the USSR was not responsible for Jim Crow segregation and the criminal justice system in America that was negatively impacting African people in America, which is why
USSR wasn't responsible for destroying Africa during the Cold War.
Again, sorry.
The US.
Who is Mengistu?
Listen
to
what I said again. Listen to what I said again.
You're not apologist to Soviet Union.
Listen to what I said again.
This dude is crazy.
I know. Listen to what I said again.
No, ShakaRa knows it's true because he knows the history of the Soviet Union in Africa.
Again, the USSR was not responsible for Jim Crow, segregation, lynching, and those forms of terrorism in the United States of America, from which the idea of critical race theory as a critique of the legal system was born, right? So this is not the USSR is
was the USSR responsible?
It's not important.
You're running from the question.
No.
Was the USSR responsible for atrocities in Africa?
There's a brethren on the panel called Staying on Topic, yeah? What we are doing right
Please.
Run.
Please.
Run from the question. Run from the question, man. And it proved my point. It proved my point. Say, just double standard.
Hold on a second.
You don't need to run from
that liberalism.
Yo, we can take on the whole on.
To the extent that liberalism was as a social philosophy was a part of the development, the political development of the geopolitical West, to the extent that liberalism as instituted in the geopolitical West, a significant aspect of it was the colonization of African people in the United States of America and throughout the rest of the world.
So
to the extent that the liberal era, the Enlightenment era, coincided with the era of Jim Crow, segregation, lynching, and terrorism committed against African people.
If liberalism said
to the extent, that all of these things are true, yes, when the American establishment is attacked in relation to its treatment of African people, yes, then yes, the ideologies that contribute.
Answer the question. Was the Soviet Union responsible for atrocities in Africa during the
Cold War? Soviet Union is irrelevant to the issue of critical race theory.
Man.
Soviet Union is irrelevant to the issue
of make the comment and see him having finger up.
All right, go ahead, Congo.
Him ISIS one finger.
I just want to say this. When the Soviet Union, even though this was due to selfish reasons, during the Cold War, they recruited a lot of nations such as Vietnam. The Soviet Union protected the tallest tree in our forest, Paul Robeson, during the McCarthy era.
So instead of dodging the question, you apologize. That me want to hear from Shaka. Me want to hear this kind of apology for Soviet from Shaka and Imhotep.
Brother, Kangol is entitled to run with you through the weeds if he wants to. Me not do it. And I make no apology for not doing it. Yeah, it's a distraction. One day we can discuss the whole and the permutations as a
Congo fall in the trap
with the USSR if you want to, yes, and all of these.
You need more training, Congo. You should have know how to dodge the question.
America in Congo and all kind of different things. The question here is critical race theory and the political agenda behind centering it in political discourse at this moment in time.
I thought the question was:
it is simply a tool. It is simply a tool. It is simply a tool for people like Donald Trump and those who are similarly politically aligned.
That's a distraction now, because what that have to do with anything?
I can explain that very simply. The mouthpiece for Christopher Rufo became Donald Trump. Yes, during the 2020 presidential election. All right. So Donald Trump was the person who took up the agenda of Christopher Rufo and made it a national talking point. That national talking point found its way into the British Parliament. All right. And I'm simply saying that regardless of whether one agrees with or disagrees with critical race theory, a caricature and an inaccurate caricature of it has been created in order for people like Trump and the conservative industrial complex in general and the black conservative industrial complex in particular to attack anybody. Attack anybody.
CRT in school.
To attack anybody.
That's supposed to.
One second. To attack anybody who is trying to address an issue of racial justice. I don't even have to agree with the people them necessarily, the politics of the people them who are bringing those issues in order to understand the weapons that are being used against them. It's very simple.
All right. In summary, number one, Derek Bell attacks liberalism and uses racism as a cover. His real target is liberalism and property rights and capitalism. Number two, critical race theory is not something that's just kept in Ivy League law schools. It's in society and it's in the schools. Number three.
What schools?
What schools and how? What schools and how? Please.
Because that's not taught in high schools, and that's
No,
to do
no,
with law.
the legal
That
theory is not.
So
The
What is
legal
there then?
theory
What
is
is there? What is there then? What is in the schools? Please explain it to us.
They're teaching that America is inherently racist because of capitalism and
No,
liberalism.
they're teaching that America is inherently racist, which it
Yes,
is.
yes,
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 which
right.
it is.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Right.
Human beings are inherently discriminatory. Everybody discriminates. Yes or no?
So what other
Yes
countries
or no?
Listen,
Answer the question.
No. Let's agree that human
Yeah, I
beings.
can't answer questions.
I'm gonna ask you a question.
Are human beings inherently
let's agree
discriminatory?
Let's agree.
He trying to move the goalpost.
No, that is the goal,
One
man.
second.
You can't answer.
One
You need
second.
more training.
One second. Let us
Week
agree
after
on the
week.
argument that human beings are inherently discriminatory. Yeah, but let's agree for the sake of argument. What we
Good.
cannot agree, right, is that all human beings create a justice system that is weaponized and designed to specifically target and negatively impact a group of people on the issue of their racial and cultural constitution, and that is
Right.
what was done in America, right? So the point is, yeah, that when
That's not what Derek Bell argues.
now, the people that are attacking critical race theory are not attacking the idea that critical race theory is saying that America is racist because it is capitalist. They're attacking the idea that America is inherently racist. They don't believe that is the case. Well, they want to negate that idea in the minds of the mass of Americans in general and African people in particular. Why? Because they want African people in America and around the world to buy into the American dream, to see the American founding
Just like how we want people to buy into the Soviet Union and socialism. So you know, can't even answer questions regarding
to see
what?
George
The Soviet
Washington
Union is dead.
To see
not in your mind, not in Shaka mind, not in Imhotep mind,
Abraham Lincoln,
not in Derek Bell mind,
as to see those people, yeah, and Obama as our image of success and our template for geopolitical development in today's world. That is the point.
Yeah, I agree with Shaka. I agree with you on that.
Stop fabricate the thing. Christopher Rufo and them people.
No, you don't understand.
About the idea that Africans are going to see America as inherently racist and the institutions of America as inherently racist, which it is.
Okay. So let me.
Yes, America is
let me go through the summary.
White supremacist, criminal settler colony that is built upon the assassination and the genocide committed against the indigenous peoples of the Americas.
I was on number 3.
And the enslavement of the African peoples who were trafficked to the Americas. That is what America is.
Right. Good. All right.
And America is that. In 1776, 1619, 1865, 1964, and 2023.
Good. All right. So, since we all accept that humans are inherently discriminatory, right? That's how we survive as a species, right? We look around the environment and we discriminate, right? Good. So, since we agree with that, and we can agree that racism and sexism and classism can be destructive elements in our society. Do you think liberalism as a philosophy is the best philosophy to address racism and sexism? Not to eliminate those things, but they can't eliminate. Hold on, let me just go. All right, go on.
The best philosophy for addressing those things as far as African people is concerned is an African-centered philosophy, an African-centered geopolitical, economic, social, and cultural philosophy that speaks specifically to our needs and our own political, cultural, social, and economic development.
How does liberalism
liberal philosophy, as it has developed in Europe, has not solved the problems of Africa.
I never asked you that. I never asked you that, brethren. I never asked you that.
Liberalism has not solved the problems of African people. Yeah,
Okay.
the people that develop
socialism solved our problems.
No, it hasn't. The people that develop liberalism,
people.
the people that develop liberalism as a social, political, and economic theory have not solved the problems of African people. No nation that
Right, which one solved it? Which one solved
it? Nobody has solved the problems of African people. Why? Because the problems of African people,
including Ubuntu,
can only be solved by ourselves. So any movement that has been made towards a solution for African people has been made by the agency of African people acting within our own.
Does agency of African people mean the freedom to choose whatever philosophy you want?
Excuse me. No, it doesn't. Because simply because.
Okay.
One second. So
you're a totalitarian.
Any individual. Well, liberalism is a totalitarian philosophy.
No, it's not.
Having said that. If we're talking about the
you just deny that blacks should not have agency.
No, I didn't say that. If we're talking about
yes, you said people aren't free to choose what philosophy they want.
An individual is free to do whatever they want.
Individual Africans.
As it relates to the liberation of African people, no, you can't choose whatever philosophy you want.
Okay, good. That's all I want here. So you're against liberalism, good. Just like Derek Ben.
There were Africans. For example,
one at a time. I can't hear it all.
For example, I'm going to give an example, then I'm going to hand over to you, Imhotep. The majority of our leadership, as far as black nations, the majority of black nations in the world today, in Africa and the Caribbean, have chosen the philosophy of democracy and neoliberalism, to abide by its dictates.
Liberalism?
Neoliberalism, to abide by its dictates, in today's world, They're free to do that as individuals, but they are not free to paint their neo-colonial inclinations as working on behalf of the liberation of African people.
That's right.
Well, the difference between a politician or a head of state choosing a philosophy and a private individual is that the private individual don't have the power to force this on anybody. The politician have that power.
That's force. That's force. Because the reality is that one of the biggest
you can force your philosophy onto people.
The idea of a private citizen is relative. Private citizen, Rockefeller.
Well, let's answer the question.
Rockefeller was a private citizen. Firestone was a private citizen. Ford.
How can they force them? How Firestone force itself onto?
Excuse me. Ford was a private citizen. These are all private citizens that have an inordinate and had and continue to have an inordinate influence on
over what? Over the government.
Over global geopolitics.
Over the government.
No. It's because and that's what
in Liberia, Firestone never have influence over the government.
Because
who kick out the UNIA? Firestone?
It's because a forced dichotomy is created in the neoliberal narrative between corporations, companies, capitalists, and the government. It's a force.
How Firestone and Rockefeller going to force you to buy what?
Into the government. People in government, right?
Answer the question.
Within this system and within this society, there is not this sharp distinction between corporations and the government that the neoliberal narrative would like to paint. It's nonsense.
Okay, so how does Rockefeller?
I stopped you from speaking a minute ago.
I stopped you from speaking
a minute ago. Got you, Imhotep.
In reference to being able to choose I agree with your assertion that no, Africans are not free to choose any ideology that they desire in order.
Not a tyrant.
Yes, like the people in Singapore, the Singapore government. Go ahead.
In order to achieve liberation, and a very simple example of that is how are you going to white supremacy yourself into African liberation? White supremacy is ideology. It is a geopolitical philosophy. You understand? Right. And you cannot use that into black liberation. So just stop using these disingenuous talking points, please. A lot of Africans worldwide are listening to this program and are listening for
White supremacy like what? Marxism that Kwame Nkrumah had.
Pause for a sec.
White supremacy.
Pause for a sec. Allow me to direct the conversation for a second, please. Yeah. May I mute everybody? All right. May I mute everybody? Just 1 second. Cause we're gonna close soon. All right. Now I got to know 11 o'clock tonight. Yeah. Cause me have Oman forgot hug up. All right. So the issue of I spoke about Corner West a minute ago. I did want to come back to that quickly because it was raised in the midst of this conversation. I want to know why, what was the talking point around that? Yeah. And if anybody had anything more to say on the issue that I raised of the sister in being having to cancel her Isheshe.
That's what I wanted to talk on, to be honest, Shaka.
Yeah, but you come. It's open house. So you don't have to follow the. You know what I'm saying? You know, if it's
yeah. Because I was wondering solutions, code of conduct for that. Because that's.
All right, we'll come back to that in a second. We'll come back to that in a second. Let's come back to this Corner West thing very quickly. Who want to talk about that very quickly?
Yeah, the reason why I bring up Corner West is because Comrade Congo said Marxism is dead. You understand? And I said, no, the ideas are still very much relevant. You understand?
I'd agree with you on that. I'd agree with you on that. But I think the point that was being made is that as a geopolitical force, it's not a significant one. The ideas are very much present in academia, and there are some.
And those are important. There are many ideas are important,
of course, but it's no more present than neoliberalism in academia. There are any number of philosophies that are present in academia.
That's not true. That's the survey of professors in America that identify as neoliberal.
And certainly, as it relates to the actual political establishment and the corporations, or any significant branch of government politics and economics, within the geopolitical West at the moment, Marxism is not to be found as a significant force. The Marxist political parties that will actively try to do so are significantly kept out of the running. And even those who are not fundamentally Marxist, but just socially democratic, are attacked. We've had examples of that recently in Britain and America, whereby the neoliberal elements of the left-leaning parties attack the more socialist candidates within their own parties.
But hold on, now you say all the parties are neoliberal. Hold on, you're confused.
No, I said all the parties are neoliberal, yes. And evidence of that is the fact that those who are not singing from the classical neoliberal hymn sheet get attacked and ousted from the party. What more evidence you want to the fact that the party is neoliberal? Fundamentally.
So
Barack Obama was a neoliberal president.
Right.
Joe Biden
don't get derailed on that neoliberal talk with Brother Coffee.
Yeah. Tony Blair, neoliberal. Yeah. Anyway.
What is it? What?
I said, don't get derailed on that neoliberal talk and foolish.
I'm
not. But so what was the point about Corner West though?
No, I'm saying that geopolitical, the fact that there are no Marxist states that can challenge America, no, it's irrelevant. Ideas. Yo, top of the knives now, man. Top of the knives now. The pen is mightier than the sword. Ideas can destroy nations from within. So just saying that the USSR is no longer in existence, that don't mean nothing. That don't mean nothing.
Are you putting forward the idea that Cornel West is a representative of the USSR?
No, I'm saying that ideas are more powerful.
Yes, and the dominant ideas that have geopolitical power at the moment are not those of the USSR or Marxism. But what does that have to do with Cornel West?
No, because Cornel West is a popular candidate.
Yeah, but what is that? What was your point in bringing him back to the conversation? I'm not understanding.
He's asserting that Cornel West is a Marxist. Without trying to
so hold on, my youth, you hear me just say Cornel West is an example of the idea of Marxism still relevant.
No, yeah,
that's another example.
Not a Marxist. He's definitely a socialist, but he's not a Marxist.
Yes, he is. He calls his Marxism Marxist humanism. That's what he calls it. Go and read it.
He's not a Marxist. Cornel West is not a Marxist. He might agree with some of the ideas.
You read the book? You read the book?
Cornel West is not
a say you read the book.
He's a Christian socialist, my brother.
Say you read, if you read him book.
He self-defines and is defined as a non-Marxist socialist explicitly. He's not a Marxist.
In the book, that's a lie. Yo, the man defined himself as a Marxist humanist.
He's got more
different from the authoritarian or who he describes as.
He's got more than one book, by the way, and I believe he would more define himself as a humanist or a Christian socialist or a prophetic.
You never read the book. You never read the book.
He's not. But he's expressly a non.
That's the problem, you know. You come to war unprepared. That's like Comrade Congal.
You're entitled to your opinion on my preparation, but I'm telling you.
So answer the question.
Even among Marxists, Cornel West is not considered to be a Marxist. In fact, he's challenged on the basis of not being a Marxist.
Well, he's not. He believes he's not an authoritarian Marxist, and he said that because you have two strands of Marxism, according to him. Him say you have the humane Marxism or the Marxist humanism, and you have the Stalinist or the authoritarian.
You know what the real issue is? Let me tell you what the real issue is right now. Yeah.
Tell me what the real issue is.
Let's get to the point. Yeah. Cornel West has been as well as being one of the most severe opponents of Obama, has been one of the most severe opponents of Trump. Yeah. And Coffee's a Trumpist. That's all it is, right? And so because
all you can do is smear now.
Okay.
All you can do is smear. Me tell us I'm a Trumpist. Me tell us I'm a Trump. Yo, you see, you're really communist.
No, we had this conversation. No, hold on there. Why are you acting as though I'm unfairly characterizing you? We had this,
I tell you, I don't support
We had this conversation live on a live stream, and I asked you this question.
And what did I say?
Are you a supporter of Donald Trump? And you said to me yes. And I even clarified. 1 second. I even clarified. We're not, and as far as I'm aware, we're not just talking about Donald Trump in 2016. You're an advocate of Trump in 2024, and you said yes.
It depends on who he run against. That's what I said.
You are.
That's what I said.
Yeah, you advocate Donald Trump 2024.
Depends on who he run against.
That's not what you said. That is not what you said to me before. I asked you.
No. You can.
Candidate.
You can go back.
Yes.
Yo, man, you can go back and see.
Why you act like that mischaracterized?
No, because I said it depends on who run against.
So if it run against Cornel West,
if you run against Cornel West,
yeah.
No, I'm not pick Cornel West.
Huh?
I would pick Cornel West. If him run against like Tulsi Gabbard, or if him run against the Libertarian Party, I would vote for them.
Meanwhile, you take a picture of your voting card, you know, when you go at the booth.
When you bring it up, I love senior skills.
Wait, live again. I'm going to check if Cornel was there on your ballot, you know. I'm going to check if Cornel was there on your ballot paper, you know. I'm going to see your tick, you know. I want to see the X mark loud. Yeah.
But
yeah.
Serious, like hopefully in order to hopefully turn the conversation a little bit away from Brother Coffee's Marxism of Cornel West and back to your mention of him as a third-party candidate.
Yes,
to me, it kind of I don't know whether the voting systems in the United States are first past the post, but to me, it brings back into focus the conversation we were having a few weeks ago about the first past the post system and the fact that it necessitates and therefore it creates two dichotomous parties for the system to work most easily.
100%.
Because
go ahead.
Oh yeah. So it's like, so in the first place, a lot of these conversations about electoral systems, about the nature of the state in so-called Western societies ought to be framed in terms of constitutional reform, because the entire structure of the society, kind of bringing it back to critical race theory, is oppressive by nature. Like when they made it, they weren't even pretending that they didn't want to oppress. They were creating the system specifically so they could oppress certain people and advance their own interests in on the land. So, as I say, a lot of these questions really ought to be framed from the context of constitutional reform, total top-down institutional infrastructural reform of the society.
Thank you for bringing me back.
With your social reconstruction.
Hold on there. Thank you for bringing me back to that point, my brother, because that is exactly what I was alluding to when I mentioned the fact that the same two-party system exists within our home nations. Yeah, we're mimicking them, and the results of our mimicking them is clear to see. Yeah, since the so-called independence era, which is really a neo-colonial era. All right. And so the issue of constitutional reform, and I'm putting this forward, especially in light of the fact that a number of our nations in the Caribbean, as it stands right about now, are talking that talk of getting rid of King Charles as the head of state. Yeah. And me say this when Barbados did do it, you know, me say getting rid of Elizabeth, because it was Elizabeth at the time, is the right thing to do. But getting rid of Elizabeth is not going to get rid of the neo-colonial empire and the neo-colonial regime. Yeah. And this idea of constitutional reform, people-based constitutional reform, yes, is an issue that we need to begin to campaign for as far as Africans in the Caribbean are concerned. Yeah. And when we say that, no, we're now let's talk about the political elite going around Rome and come up with a new constitution. We're talking about engaging the population of the nation in a process of developing a new constitution based upon the history, development, and political destiny of the nation as it stands. Yeah. And that is a process that should take, if it's done properly, a number of years. Yes. A number of years of engaging a national discourse and conversation around these matters. Yeah. Because
how would you tell when the population?
Excuse me, we're not done. You can come in after I finish. The fact that, for example, in a nation like Jamaica, the political party that was founded by the nation's first national hero is marginalized. The People's Political Party, which was hounded and attacked by what became the political elite in Jamaica, that was marginalized when the nation became a so-called independent nation, and that is struggling for recognition now. Yes, 60 years after the nation is supposedly independent. And that reality reflects itself all over the Caribbean, and I dare say all over the continent. Yeah, the third party reality, because everybody I try to be more democratic. Yeah, everybody I try to ape and mimic Westminster democracy. Yes, exactly. Yeah, quote unquote. Washington DC consensus. Yeah, and all of these things. And so there is a need and a way, and I believe that with the right social organizations, our nations are better suited and right for third party influence on conversation than even the Western nations are, except for the fact that when that happens, when Noah said the CIA are gonna come in yeah, and back the two party them straight. So we're gonna have to find some ways of defending ourselves against that kind of intrigue. But there's a popular conversation.
The criminals.
Yeah, man. You know what I'm saying?
So first of all, this is interesting because I remember a couple of Tuesdays ago, both of you denied that government policy is important or have an important effect on economic and social outcomes. But now you guys are talking about politics or going into politics to change.
I will ever deny that politics has an effect on economics. That doesn't make
effects.
No, what did you say? I thought I was quoting you. What did you say?
So the question, no. Couple of Tuesdays ago, you guys were denying that government policy, for instance, like policy in Jamaica affect Jamaican outcomes. You were saying, no, it's just neoliberalism or American imperialism. And
no, I think you are completely mischaracterizing what you were saying. No, I think he's completely.
Hold on, let me finish. Go ahead.
No, man, I think everybody can go back and see what they are.
Yeah, they can. Go ahead, finish.
So you said it's going to take years for your your constitutional reform to come about, right? How would you know when the people are properly informed and them ready now to for the elites, because the elites will write up the constitution because elites write every single constitution, right? Even the Marxist elites, them write into the constitution. So how would you know? At what point would you say
I'm not claiming to have the complete purview of the process in my mind at the moment. That's not what the conversation that I'm engaging. And I think that the answer to your question is not for me to answer as an individual. I'm simply saying that that it should be a part of a national conversation, and that the voices of the people should be involved in the process. I'm just affirming a principle at the moment. How that takes place and at what point and so on and so forth, there are people that will probably be able to better speak to that than I will as an individual, and maybe it's not, like I said, the question for any individual to answer. It's one that must be answered with a bit more voices in the room, so to speak. The point I'm making, however, is that the political elite is corrupt and allegiant to a neoliberal authority, sorry, a neocolonial authority, and so therefore it is necessary to sever the ties between that elite and the neoliberal authority and remove the power and the influence of that elite over the masses of the people. You have created another forced dichotomy between government policy and neocolonial agenda. The neocolonial agenda is made manifest in the government policy. That's what was real. I believe it was last week we spoke about what neocolonialism is, whereby the economic agenda and therefore the political policy is governed from outside. So no, there's no way.
My argument was
sorry. There's no way that I could have said that government policy is irrelevant, because that would be diametrically opposed to what neocolonialism is.
Therefore, if you're going to say that all Black countries and Latin American countries are dominated by American imperialism, yes?
Brother, every country that doesn't have a nuke is dominated by American imperialism. In fact, every country in the world.
Good. So good. So therefore, what explains the difference in economic and social outcomes of these countries?
There are many different factors.
That's the colonial origins. The fact that the colonial origins, the fact that the institutions of those countries were not meant to serve the people inside of those places, but meant to
answer the question.
There are many different, but there
are answer the question.
There are many.
If we agree that all of them are the same in terms of
that's not what we said. We're conflating ideas again. It wasn't said that all of them are the same. The idea that all of them are subject to American imperialism.
Good. Right. So what explains the difference in economic outcomes?
Is not to say that all of them are the same. All right. That's the first point. The second point is that there are many different variables that will explain differences in economic outcomes to varying different degrees. The point is, one thing that is certain, when the agenda fails to suit the interest of the geopolitical West, that nation will come under attack. That is a fact that can be borne out, through over a century at least, of history in this regard. What also can be born to be the case is that what is supported by the geopolitical West and what is considered to be positive or negative economic outcomes doesn't necessarily always correlate. When Mobutu was acting on behalf of America, he wasn't serving the interests of his people, but he was backed by the empire nonetheless. And so we talk about economic outcomes as though, and by the way, and at that point he was a darling everybody in the geopolitical West, in particular America, and they even actively supported him militarily against those who would fight against him and try to do something more.
So what policies explain the difference in outcomes?
So again, I've already said there are different policies and different contexts to explain different outcomes and different
What policies explain Black countries in the upper Black.
For example, what Haiti is going through, partly because of its willingness to continue to stand up to these geopolitical powers is different, yeah, to what a Bahamas may go through because of its situation, because it serves, for example, as a tax haven for American corporations.
How did Haiti stand up
Sorry,
to?
excuse me. The level of destabilization that America facilitates in Haiti, it is not in its interest to facilitate that in Bahamas because its own corporations are going to be severely affected in terms of the taxation that is created there. So it has a different interest in Bahamas than it has in Haiti. It doesn't mean that Bahamas is any less under a neo-colonial regime.
Hold on. No, I didn't say that. So
Right,
America can make money off of Bahamas, but they can't make money off of Haiti.
They are making money off of Haiti. The point,
right. So good. That's what.
Excuse me. The point is that how that shows up and looks in Haiti may look different to the Bahamas.
Why?
But the neo-colonial agenda is still the
no. Why Haiti have a different outcome?
Yeah.
Why?
For example, we spoke about last week. We spoke about Kagame and Kigali, which is because most of the development that people are seeing in Rwanda is not Rwanda, it's in Kigali, the capital city. Yeah, and we spoke about the fact that Kagame is in the pocket of these the Americans and the British, particularly.
Unlike which African leader?
Tony Blair.
Unlike which African leader?
Allow me to finish. Thank you. All right. But how that shows up in Rwanda, because of their interest in Rwanda as it stands currently, may be different to how it shows up in Congo. Yes, whereby they are using Rwanda to rape the resources from the Congo. So it's going to show up in the Congo looks like a civil war. It's going to show up in Rwanda like development in Kigali and mass poverty among the rest of the entirety of the country. Yeah, but so it looks different. It doesn't make it any less neo-colonial.
So black countries, if all black countries are under neo-colonial domination, those black countries that escape the poverty trap, those black countries that are in the middle and upper income brackets, was that as a result of, listen to the question first now. Listen to the question first.
African countries are in the middle and upper income bracket, please.
What
African or Caribbean countries are in the upper and middle income bracket, please?
Bahamas is in the upper, Jamaica is in the middle, Barbados in the middle, Trinidad in the middle, and you have a couple of African countries in the middle. What I'm saying is that
so Jamaica is your example of success, bro.
Yeah.
No, Jamaica
is your example of success.
Let me answer now. No, it's me, Max. Jamaica.
Answer that. Is Jamaica your example of success?
I don't I try the comrade. Jamaica is an example of a country, black country that came out of the poverty trap, came out of the lower income bracket. No, because what?
When Jamaica come out of the poverty trap?
Conversation, bro.
They went into the middle income bracket. No, must in the 90s or 80s. No. But yeah, you a student and do.
In any case, I often find these kind of conversations are really stupid, like talking about like standard of living.
No, because it hit at the point of what you making. You are saying.
Hold on a second. Give thanks, right? Because like the idea that it's a better standard of living to live in a stone house and work 16 hours a day and barely make ends meet because you have to make money to live, and that is better than living in a house that you built yourself from natural materials which you can gather yourself, and that you live off of the fruit of your own labor, the literal fruit of your own labor and the meat of your own labor. The idea that the one 16 hours a day is preferable to the other is a stupid conversation in the first place. The idea that we ought to be running after the Western idea of so-called development is a stupid assertion in the first place. So
okay, so the reason why it is relevant.
Pause a sec. Coffee, pause a sec. This is the South. I'm not going to make a point. You can come in right after this. Yeah, I just want to make sure that I'm paying attention to the chat. Family, give thanks for viewing. And thanks to Melanie Goddess, who says this panel is entertaining and educational. We appreciate. I hope so, because sometimes people say that the conversation can go over their heads. So I am trying to explain certain terminology and certain ideas so that we're not just talking over people's heads. And feel free to ask a question. Yeah. Now, if you want your comment to be read, you have to @gotkushTV. All right, for me to, because like I said, there's a whole heap of conversation that goes on in the chat between Uno, and that's good. That's beautiful. We want that. But if you want to interact with the panel from the chat, please @gotkushTV so I can see and read your comment. And also, the link is the link is pinned to the top of the chat if you are watching via Gotkush TV's channel. Yeah, so feel free to come through. I'm feeling generous today. All right, so I'm gonna share the link one more time. All right, one more time we're gonna share the link. Yeah, and if anybody who hasn't
because they want help
wants to join, yes, because I'm suffering at the hands of the intellectual dexterity of our neoliberal comrade on the panel right now, and I require as much help and support as I can get in withstanding these blistering attacks that I'm receiving, this evening, kings and queens. So yeah, so feel free to come through. Last call for anybody who wants to join the panel.
ShakaRa.
Yeah, one second. I still I'm gonna let Coffee speak after I've done the announcement.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Yeah, the reason why I was using those matrix is because it's not because of some allegiance to one objective standard, right? Yeah, whatever you value, if you value living like a hippie, or if you value being a business person that want profits, that's up to you. That's subjective. I'm just using the developmental metrics that put Haiti and other countries like Haiti into the poverty category to argue that those countries that use different policies escape that category. So you can't, for instance, on the one hand, you can't say Haiti is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere and then not want to use those indices that measure poverty.
Is Haiti not liberal though? What are the policies in Haiti that are unliberal that's like keeping them poor?
Well, for one,
how is Haiti straying from liberalism? I think Haiti is liberal.
Yo, yeah.
Well, ask a question.
Yeah, so you have to allow me to answer. And so the first and the biggest one is the government is a thief and a killer and has never respected the Haitian rights in terms of their property and individual rights. That's a fundamental problem in Haiti, right? Whether it's under the black nationalism of Papa Doc, or the socialism of Aristide, or the neoliberalism of the current regime, or wherever it is, none of them respect the rights of the Haitian people. And that's when you have a government that's a bandit, as opposed to a government that respects property and individual rights, you're gonna have different outcomes, obviously. So all I'm saying is that, again, those countries that escape the poverty trap, those black countries, those Latin American countries that escape into the upper or the middle income brackets.
So Jamaica don't have bandits in government though? Jamaica don't have corruption, or Trinidad don't have corruption in government?
Not to the level of Haiti. Everything is relative, like I was saying.
How you know that?
Because of the indices, the corruption index, the risk.
That is a money laundering country. I swear to God,
let me answer now.
I swear to God, bro.
Yeah, let me answer. So, you can look at the corruption index, and you can also look at the migratory patterns of people, where people choose to live. Nobody's rushing to Haiti. Nobody's rushing to Jamaica. Nobody's rushing to Central America, right? Unless you're super rich and you're protected by the government. You understand? Where people go is where they feel most free. And that's another indicator of a country is not as corrupt.
That's false. Jamaica.
That's people's preferences. But you can't tell them to them false.
Ridiculous things, bro. You just say the most ridiculous.
Brethren, that's what people prefer. You don't like that because it don't gel with your ideology. But that's what people prefer.
Wait 1 second, Kofi.
Alright, my problem. But my
now all I wanted to say, Kofi, is that I think Jamaica, you live in Jamaica, you feel freer than in the United States. I feel freer in Jamaica, but there's more money. I think I earn more in the United States.
And I'm saying all that is relative and subjective. Of course, some people feel freer and more at home in Jamaica. Some people don't. That's why people migrate, and that has been happening since the dawn of time, since Denkenesh or Lucy or
But
whatever.
I think America literally is less free than Jamaica because them like prosecute you for more things. You can't park your car anywhere you want to. I mean, literally, you're free in Jamaica to do whatever you want to do and not be prosecuted by the law.
Okay, well, that's your feelings, and that's
No, that's
legitimate to
just a
you.
fact. That's literally a
That
fact.
can't be a fact, Bridget. That cannot be a fact.
America has
You can't park your car anywhere you want
How
in
you
America.
feel about a country is not a fact.
America has 25% of the world's prison population and 5% of the world's.
Imhotep, I agree. If you feel that,
are you talking
missed the
about?
point. Yeah, missed the point. I'm saying that yes, if it's comfortable to you, that's your subjective valuations.
No,
I'm saying that everybody's not the same.
More in the United States. The brother make a very specific claim about being prosecuted more in the United States, and I'm suggesting
some people and to some people that rush into America, that's not important.
About this, there are
but that was your point.
Yo, you're not understand. I'm saying that people's preferences are revealing how they move with them foot. You understand?
Yeah. It's actually not about where you feel freest. It's about the economic opportunities and viability,
which is connected to freedom.
Not necessarily.
No.
Yes, the freedom to start business, the freedom to trade, the freedom not to allow all your earnings taken away.
Just that he makes more money in the US and he's feel free in Jamaica. So, like even anecdotally, it just.
Yo, Gretchen, I'm just saying that's how people view.
Freedom as it is defined in these economic conversations is a very vague concept, deliberately so.
Not vague to people because they move every day. They go back and forth. Well, nobody goes to Cuba.
So if we're free in America, why we're retiring in Jamaica?
I never say we are free. I'm saying people who go there feel free.
One sec.
Know the difference.
I'm gonna say this, and then I'm gonna bring in Morning Rose. Greetings, my sister. Welcome. The issue is this, yeah. You know, like when people who are anti-immigrant in Britain and America, and if this country's so bad, why does everyone want to come here? Yeah, that's what they say. All right, and so the argument of it being freer, this character,
another straw man to
the conversation is not restricted to you, Coffee. Every statement is not about you. I'm talking about the argument in general. Relax. All right.
My argument.
Relax, and let me finish. Yeah. This is what these arguments are designed to produce. So you can have a situation in which, because economic warfare is an actual thing, right? As much as Britain and America would like to deny this reality, well, they know it's a reality when it comes to China, but when it comes to them, it's not relevant. So Donald Trump can complain about how China is negatively affecting the American economy, victim mentality, yes. But when it comes to America and its impact upon other people's economies, that's just down to the policies of their nation. It's impossible to discuss the economic status and standing of North, South, and Central America and the Caribbean, especially in the 20th century, without discussing the expansion of the American military-industrial complex.
That can explain everything.
Excuse me.
It cannot.
Excuse me. I'm not finished. Corporations such as the United Fruit Company, now known corporations like Doyle, which is named after an American businessman, and it still exists today. All right, just to name two, the corporations that took advantage of the oil in the 70s in Trinidad, and so on and so forth. It's impossible, to look at to discuss the economic standing and the poverty that we find in the Caribbean in particular, without discussing what the centuries of extraction and underdevelopment that those nations suffered as a result.
Why did some escape that trap?
None of them have any.
I told you already. Those black countries, whether in the Caribbean or Africa.
I am not finished. Thank you. Yeah. So it's impossible to look at those factors without factoring in those elements. Yeah. And then it's impossible to understand these dynamics further until we understand the revolutionary movements that arose in those respective nations, how the political elites attacked those movements, and how they were backed in their attack by the Britons and the Americas and the Frances and the so on and so forth and the so on and so forth and the so on and so forth. That's why I say it's not a simple matter when you're asking, when it comes to what explains the differences between this nation and that nations, there's a number of different factors that as it relates to the nations specifically, but all of those factors relate to the power relationship between those superpowers that operate in their region and the former colonial powers, and the intrigue, yes, that is done with regards to corporations and governments and militaries and how they operate in and among those regions. Yeah.
And I am saying,
sorry, one second. Thank you. Morning, Rose. Welcome, my sister.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good. Even better for seeing you, my sister.
Hello, King and Prince. How are you doing today? Yes, it's I just can't come on here early and be all of that. It's like so much of the not the correct energy with my spirit. I don't know, but
it's all good, sis.
I will say, it's still worth always being here with you. A lot of things have happened these last few weeks in the world, I hope you can refocus the conversation a bit, because it makes it a little difficult to stay with that. But I would definitely say that freedom is marginal into the way in which we're able to access it at this point. It doesn't matter where you are at in the world. The level of Black freedom is highly limited. Like we're not. It's like our I would say that the differences that we see are in our reality are not attuned to like the actuality of the margin. Like our margin is very small and between each other in terms of actualized freedoms. People flee their countries and are judged for so because they're not maybe fighting where they're at, but you don't know the fight that those people actually went through before they, left. There's nothing inherently wrong with immigration. However, it impacts people where they're at when they haven't achieved the things they have the rights to constitutionally. But our freedom, like, it's not freedom to me when the things that are being provided as in standardization by governing powers are not received by me in equal way. And so your basic life forms are very, very much affected at that point. But when it comes to like the freedoms that you think people are seeking, the economics, it's economics, but it's also like protecting your family. Some of these people flee very dangerous situations, and even just to go one country over, is just going to relieve some of that, or I would should say alleviate some of that. But to come to the U.S., it's because the conditions have been made in imbalance. Like the conditions that would normally be here have been shifted onto other nations or other territories, so that the condition is controlled here. And so people want to go to where it's controlled because they know how to follow those rules very easily without having to think about it too much. You know what I'm saying? Like where they might be at, it's a little bit, it's like more skewed. It's more based on politics. If your family did something to offend the ruling power or corruption that might be there, the corruption that is there is also a development of the conditions that have been made unbalanced by this whole situation in a lot of countries. So capitalism is not freedom. I don't know if he's always trying to equate that to what freedom is, but money is only a material measure of that. And it's just there's other metrics that aren't being measured that are very much should be included in that conversation, but it always seems to be skewed that to this very small portion of the conversation.
100. And on that point, it's like we speak as though, like, when we speak about poverty, we speak as though poverty is a organically generated condition, not a deliberately imposed one. And my uncle always said to me, we should stop talking about poverty and begin to talk about impoverishment. Yeah. Because oftentimes poverty is a deliberately created condition, or one that is deliberately maintained. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like immigration policies and why people immigrate and so on and so forth. Enough people immigrate from one part of the Caribbean to the other. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Jamaicans are famous for doing that for economic reasons, right? Because the jobs weren't quite what they should be. Yeah. I mean, I have enough cousins where I nurse where them live in America are even Cayman Islands and them kind of things there. But the idea is also that when you see a more affluent nation and we say, well, it's because of their government policies, this is to presume, or at least to give the idea or allude to the idea that they're somehow less corrupt. Yeah. So if we take Bahamas, for example, Bahamas is pure corruption in Bahamas by virtue of the fact that it is a tourist destination and a tax haven for British and American corporations. Yeah. So by virtue of these things, it has to be corrupt. When we talk about the wealth of Bahamas, we're not talking about, as was alluded to earlier, the income of the people. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the wealth that is accumulated through tourism. Yes, and bearing in mind that the tourist industry oftentimes is controlled by foreign corporations. Yeah. And so when that ends up on the GDP, it's not a measurement of what the people are being paid or the wealth or even just the income of the people in those nations. Yeah. It's also the fact that when nations are tax havens, they are hotbeds for corruption. Yeah. As far as government corruption is concerned, because the government is taking kickbacks and payoffs for the sake of allowing certain corporations and foreign interests to operate in the nation. Yeah.
Yes, I actually had this experience when I worked for a holdings company in the reinsurance of life insurance.
Right.
And it was my main functions were to be shifting money from New York to Bermuda. And these funds in New York were developed from all different territories in the United States.
Right.
And they were taking advantage of those tax benefits, making the money go back and forth, and basically creating conditions that were not in the law yet. So then the insurance departments of each state had to create new law to bar them from doing the activities that they created in just writing and saying that we have the ability to do this because we amended our contracts to say this.
Yeah.
And it's like a non-existent in the law until like 18 months later. It's like the law is always catching up with what the corporations are mimicking and trying to do, and it creates this cycle with the islands and them moving this money around, where by the time that they have been told they can't do something, they've already made what they needed to off of those maybe 6 quarters.
100%.
So the effect is still there, and then there's no retribution because it was legal then. And it's not just that from 1619 to 1776 till now. This is their mode of operation.
100%.
It's a constantly evolving way in which they do business.
Sis, I haven't even mentioned this because I'm still studying it at the moment. But I learned recently, I'm going to mention it and move on. I learned recently about this aspect of international law, whereby nations, the extent to which nations are beholden to corporations, because corporations can sue nations for enacting policies that are against the interests of their corporation. Yeah, and so there are a number of nations at the moment that are afraid to do certain things, yeah, and institute certain policies because of the fact that they'll be subject to some repercussion from some corporation, yeah, that's going to basically pursue legal proceedings against them. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? This is the extent.
Yes, because it's highly beneficial to incorporate in certain places. For example, the most I would audaciously say that the most incorporated territory in the world is in Delaware in the United States, the first state. And that's because they create conditions in which it's easy for corporations to function. And if they didn't allow those things, and of course these things are pushed by lobbyists, and they invest in that so they don't lose money from the territories that they function over. Literally in Delaware, and I'm incorporating there too.
Yep.
I have justifiability because I actually went to high school there. You know?
It's fine. The Black Star Line was incorporated in Delaware.
Yes, but so one of the big things that they allow is for you to incorporate there and not have to do business there. You're not required to do business there. They make money in other ways off of you incorporating there, and the fees are not that expensive, but depending on how big your corporation might be, they might be. You know, they make more money off of corporations than they do off of like LLCs. So that money is balanced out and they make it anyway. But they make those conditions so that they don't leave. But if their conditions matched their competition of other states, because states are literally in business against each other, where America is a business. If they made those conditions identical to Texas, like where I'm at, or like Idaho or California, they would lose that bit of their market share in that. So Delaware holds a higher market share of corporations than other states that are 4 and 5 times its size.
Yeah.
All right. Internationally.
All right. So
go ahead, Coffee.
All right. So either we're not getting the idea of individual subjective preferences, or you just don't like that people make choices that you don't agree with. I mean, migratory patterns are evidence of people's subjective preferences, right? We can talk about why they choose to leave all they want, but you don't know why they choose to act a certain way unless you ask them why they're acting in this certain way. So to say that is American imperialism why they leave, I mean, none of us can tell that. You know what I mean? So they again, when you look at the policies, you guys keep trying to make a distinction, or trying to explain away those black countries that escape the poverty trap by either one saying that, well, there's no agreed upon definition of poverty, or two, well, because these countries are tax havens, or they use their geographic location to leverage investments, when that's what countries do. Because the difference between countries that fail and countries that don't fail, or countries that prosper, is how they leverage investment through government policy, whether it's domestic capital accumulation or foreign direct investment. So again, it got back to policies. No, you're right, Shaka. You cannot omit American history in Latin America. However, the exact interplay of American imperialist history and domestic policy decisions, because these are decisions, because you have different choices and some countries make certain choices. So the exact interplay between these factors, nobody can know for certain. But what I'm saying is that everything cannot be reduced to imperialism, because obviously domestic policies do matter. That's why we don't want to go into politics.
We're gonna close the show. I don't know why we keep creating a forced dichotomy between imperialism on the one hand and domestic policies on the other. Imperialism wouldn't be imperialism if it didn't affect domestic policy. That's the nature of imperialism. It's literally what it is. And so
why you have different outcomes?
Sorry, so the anti-imperialist movement of any kind is attempting to negate the impact of the imperialist influence on the domestic policy. That's the point. Yeah, let us stop creating policies that are designed to suit the interest of the imperialists and create policies that are designed to suit our own interest. That is
you mean like socialism. Well, if you're going to say socialism keep countries backward, then yeah, I agree.
I didn't say that, but at the same time, yes, some of those that did it were socialists. Some of those that were anti-imperialists were not socialists. Yeah, and so yeah, and there are those who are just pro the imperialists and their institutions, right? You know, and those people tend to end up in government and the elites. You know what I'm saying?
So Jamaica is anti-imperialist compared to Bahamas.
No, the government.
So what explains the difference?
Sorry, the government of Jamaica.
Why Argentina and Chile different?
The government of
why Botswana and Zambia different?
The government of Jamaica is fully in the pocket, yeah, of the.
Okay, so why is it that they are?
Sorry, the government of the Bahamas.
Good. So why the difference?
Sorry, because the difference is you're talking about a difference in. Not income.
Not me. You. Why you think they're different?
Sorry. I'm actually trying to delineate where the difference lies, and I'm suggesting that the difference lies in GDP. Yeah, not in.
Why the GDP different? Yeah. Productivity, yes. So why productivity different in Jamaica and Bahamas?
And I'm saying it's because of exactly what the sister was just explaining a minute ago.
Which is what? Better economic policies.
If you say so, my brother.
GDP is productivity.
No,
in other words, the Bahamas productivity is higher than Jamaica. What you're saying is that Bahamas is more productive.
So after this another day in terms of the GDP and what it actually represents. But you can have
you bring up GDP.
A nation can yes, because I'm talking about it I'm differentiating GDP from income levels. They're not the same thing. Yeah, a nation can have a high GDP and mass poverty at the same time. That's very possible because the GDP can be measured and is often measured by what the companies who are operating within the nation are making, not the living standards of the people.
Yes, but you can't tell me why living standards different.
Sorry, not the income levels of the people, but the GDP. Yes, and so if corporations have a different interest in one nation versus another nation, sometimes the outcomes are going to look different based upon the interests of those nations.
Oh, so you say is corporations just prefer the Bahamas to Jamaica?
Excuse me. So if you were to actually check it in terms of
why Imhotep? Why corporations prefer Bahamas to?
If you were to actively check it in terms of poverty rates, living standards, people's access to wealth, resources, so on and so forth, you might find that the actual living conditions and opportunities afforded to the people are not necessarily too dissimilar. But because
no, that's not true. They're different. Bahamas is upper income, Jamaica middle, and Haiti lower.
Classical economists love GDP because GDP tends to hide.
But if you are going to talk about poverty and economic systems,
can I complete a sentence? Is that all right? Thank you. Yes, love to talk about GDP.
Can you answer the question?
It tends to hide a whole heap of corruption, a whole heap of what's the word? Dodgy dealings.
No, you're not answer. Are you a dodge? No, you're not answer the question, man. I want to know why is it?
Go ahead.
If somebody asks you why, what explains the difference?
With question a number of times. You just refuse to actually.
No, you're just saying.
Imhotep, you had something to say. And this is going to be, these are all last words now, family, because we have to close up. But I said I wasn't going to 11 o'clock, and it's after 11 now. So
yeah, I actually want to do my closing remarks after Coffee's closing remarks, because I have quite a lot to say in response to what he has said. So if you don't mind indulging me.
Yeah, go
on. So, all right, staying on topic, closing words.
Yeah, man, bless up. So once again, we're back with the liberal theory. And, asking people questions you don't have the answer to. So I would just like for Kofi to tell me why is it that the Bahamas has better living conditions than Jamaica?
Because they are more productive economy.
Hold on, a couple more things. Just a couple more things. And also, how can we get Jamaica to be like the Bahamas? So we're trying to get to the solution. We're not trying to win arguments, right? So we're meeting to get to the
Decentralized.
solution. So
Get rid of the garrisons, decentralize the Westminster structure, and decentralize the economy, more economic freedom.
No, but how do we do that? How do we do that? How do we do that?
You need the political will. The politicians need the politicians.
What would you do? What would you do? What would you do sitting down right now in wherever you are? What would you do?
Well, I would take out my Lego set and I would plan for the whole economy and then start to build my little Lego set.
You're going to plan the economy?
Huh?
You're going to plan the economy?
Yes, I'm going to plan the economy. I'm going to plan the economy like a socialist, like a good comrade, and say this is where banks are supposed to be. This is what businesses are supposed to produce. This is what businesses are supposed to not produce.
The economy is an effect before it's a cause, and then it recycles back into a cause that affects the economy. So it's not the other way around. You can't just plan the economy without the economy starting somewhere. The economy is affecting people.
Sister, you can't plan the economy. Good. It has to start somewhere.
Don't try that.
Where the economy start? Hold on. Good point, sister. Good point.
You're wanting to edit the American system because you think that it's only slightly flawed.
Sister, where the economy start? Hold on, sister.
By making those corrections. But the American system needs more than just an overhaul. It needs to be disbanded.
Okay, good. Where the economy starts, sister?
Let's just fix this. Let's fix that.
Where does an economy start?
Hold on. Pause. Because this is supposed to be closing words, yeah. So and I know it got off because Mr. Meloman asked Kofi a question. So
and the joke fly over him head.
No. He got the joke. That's what he said. But
in all seriousness,
I appreciate your answer.
I would explain the joke in a second for anybody who might not have gotten it. But go ahead, Kofi.
In all seriousness,
just have your closing word now in it. So
he marks a pertinent question. How can individuals change an intransigent system like Jamaica, an entrenched system like Jamaica? Apart from joining civil society and informing people and so forth, I agree with everybody. It's going to be very difficult because these two parties coming like ticks. They're in the country and they're not moving. So outside of public education, whether it's through media or whatever, the system. Huh?
Did you say I got some talking? But did you say public education?
Public education, yeah.
Okay.
Meaning. No, public education don't mean public schools. I mean going on to media, keeping town hall meetings, or even trying to influence the national curriculum by teaching certain things in the schools. All these things contribute a number of factors.
You could use the phrase civic education in the future.
Okay, civic education, yeah. But my point is that young people like Mello and their cynicism, they have a right to be cynical because the system is entrenched. Yeah. You understand?
All right. Give thanks, Coffee. Give thanks. Morning, Rose. You have a closing word? You're on mute, sis.
Yeah, sure. I just always love joining in your conversations. I learn a lot from you guys, and I think that sometimes it needs to be curbed a little bit.
I'm trying. I'm trying.
I'm glad you kind of you equalize the energy a little bit, so I'm happy about that. But yes, you can find me on Instagram as @LadyEllaCitron. Maybe I'll share that later. But I just like being here and like talking to you all. I'm trying to build something with some solutions, and You know, I'm right now identifying like my customers versus my beneficiaries in my social enterprise.
Right.
And it's always, these conversations are very helpful to me as well. And being very aware of the problems that I'm trying to solve myself within all of this. But I think all of these conversations are necessary. And no matter which way you try to like critique it, the iterations of Blackness are essential to our survival. We have to, even if we disagree with the way, you know, like the 1619 project, we still have to like really value it for the parts of it that are helpful to us.
I agree.
And you can't just throw it out, you know, completely like that. That's just not helpful to us. But
100.
yes, but thank you.
Thank you very much, sister. Imhotep, got you, King.
Yeah. All right, where to begin? So now I tried to take my notes, you know, I must scramble.
Take time with me.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond because your closing statement's done. You dig? But all right, so to begin, the statements of ours that he mischaracterized from a few Tuesdays ago, as he stated, was that we were saying that domestic policy in these neo-colonized nations are influenced by the neo-colonizers, by multinational corporations, and by foreign governments. And he mischaracterized that earlier today as us saying that government policies don't affect the populace, which is just such a, I don't know, incredible statement for, I think, either of us to make. You understand? So, right, so that's that. Secondly, all right, so you asked me to answer why, at least why I think, and I'm not an economist, so I could be very wrong, why the Bahamas is in a different economic position than Jamaica is.
No, I'm saying ShakaRa seems to be implying that it is the corporations that dictate policies in the Bahamas, and you nodded, right?
The specific question you asked after I know.
Do you agree with the premise that is corporations?
The specific question asked when I nodded was, how come? Explain to you how come the Bahamas has a different situation than Jamaica? Because they want now. That's what you asked.
And then I said,
question is.
Let's let him answer. Let's let him answer. Let him speak. Go ahead.
My assertion is that multinational capitalism, or corporatism, if you might prefer that word, is centered on resource extraction and labor devaluation. And so specifically, nations where resource extraction is necessary for the development of Western capitalism are those nations.
It's not just resource extraction. It's profits. So the question is,
coffee. We're there every week, yeah, and you will get an opportunity to probably come back, right? But not today. All right, let the man finish. And I eat that. All right, give time.
So that the nations where this resource extraction is necessary are the nations where labor is devalued significantly. So you have Jamaica, and you have, like Brother ShakaRa was saying earlier, you have Congo, in stark contrast with Rwanda. The resource extraction is not occurring necessarily in Rwanda, but the corporations can operate in Rwanda because it is at least safer, like physically safer for them to operate there, and that they are more amenable to Western imperialism. Maybe not under that name, maybe not with an understanding of their influence and their what's the word I'm looking for? Their collaboration with Western imperialism, but that is still what they are doing.
Unlike Jamaica.
Yeah.
Unlike Haiti. Haiti government don't collaborate with American imperialism.
Conversation done, you know.
In two different ways, as I'm saying. So Haiti and Jamaica are resource extraction economies, like Trinidad is. Ironically, we actually did really well.
We have tourism.
I'm not even going to ask you the question, but okay. I just wanted to also point out the word lobbyist has been used many times today, and I just want to be very clear for the audience that a lobbyist is a professional briber. What they do is they bribe government officials. That is their entire job. It is legal in specifically in the American context, and don't allow. Every time you hear the word lobbyist, think professional briber, legal criminal. Think that every time. All right.
Yes. Specialist,
I
specialist in
agree with that.
political corruption. Specialist in political corruption.
Yeah, I agree with that. And
Right.
Jamaica have that. Haiti have lobbies. So why are they different in outcomes? You see, you're
Once
trying to
more,
reduce everything to
once more,
exploitation.
once more, resource extraction. If it is that your country, in order to provide, sorry, if
Jamaica have call centers and tourism as
okay,
sectors of
what
the
is this?
society.
Actually, no, I'm leaving it up. That's for another day, right? The migratory patterns, regardless of whatever um, an individual's catalyst reason is for leaving a country, those migratory patterns are inevitably influenced by geopolitics. Geopolitics is necessarily economic in nature. And therefore, the idea that the economic policies of multinational corporations and international so-called Western, so-called superpowers on the earth would be divorced from the migratory patterns that we see in the so-called third world countries is a fallacy, and it's a very ridiculous fallacy. I don't know why you could make these kind of arguments on the
That's
street.
not the argument I'm making. I said the word divorce. I said it can't explain everything in the third world.
You were suggesting that we were trying to get away from speaking about domestic policy by speaking about Western imperialism. And I'm suggesting to you that Western imperialism is the topmost reason that is influencing all of the other reasons in domestic.
So why you have different outcomes?
Again, I already told you there is a difference between the way that that multinational corporations interact with resource extraction economies and other economies.
Just complete your statement.
Jamaica is not a resource, a cash crop country.
I didn't say anything about cash crop. I didn't say anything about that.
You said resource extraction.
Just
yeah, okay, my bad. Yeah. So the end of my statement really was actually kind of glad that you didn't bring it up, because it means that we're not really centering our conversation too much the American experience rather than the experience of Africans in America. But the reason I really wore what they call the warrior greens today is because today is July 4th. Today is the American Independence Day. And I wanted to remind us that while they may have gotten their independence from the European overlords, we Africans in the diaspora on the continent have not achieved our economic independence from any of these imperial entities. And therefore, we need to keep in mind that we always must be focused on our liberation every second of every day.
Uhuru. All right. Give thanks, Imhotep. Morning Rose, coffee, Mellow Man, Kale. Give thanks to you all. I look forward to conversing with you again. In fact, sorry, not next week. We're not going there next week, And I will tell you why. Jilly from Philly's in town. I mean, I forgot to miss my other woman, you know what I mean? I just say it, God, we can't miss Jilly from Philly, you know what I mean? So I just say it, God, you know what I mean? Yeah, so the following week, I'll be, in fact, I'm considering trying to do a different day next week, so we'll see if that's possible. If not, we're going to be here the week after that, all right? But yeah, next week, we're going to rest with Jilly from Philly, all right? But yeah, give thanks. So yeah, it's always an interesting conversation. People, just click one in the chat if you learn something from the conversation today. I want to see something. Just click one, in the chat if you learn something from the conversation. You know what I'm saying? Lick one in the chat, because I'm interested in how the conversations sound to those who are listening in and whether they're getting something from it. I know it can get hectic, and I know oftentimes we're dealing with a whole heap of heavy concept, and sometimes some intricate details, and we're getting into economic and political theory. And when I'm discussing these things, I like it to be a bit more educational. So I know that we're bringing, the gathering, along with us in the comments. So we have 1-1. I hope that's not a sign of the levels. And if you didn't, feel free not to type the one. I just want to say something. And you can also feel free to give suggestions in terms of you know, how the listening experience might be better for you in terms of learning and gaining something from the conversations as well. And I will do my best to try and implement. Yeah. While you're sending in your ones, let me repeat what I was saying at the beginning of the show. First and foremost, this Thursday, Thursday the 6th, we are releasing our interview with Brother Rakeem Shabazz. Yeah, he is the founder of the Wise the Dome podcast, which you can watch on Wise the Dome TV. I encourage everyone to watch that particular podcast. He releases period. I don't know if you have a set time, but at least once a week you're gonna get something, generally speaking, from Wise the Dome. He has a beautiful conversation that I was watching yesterday with a scholar by the name of Kimia Naru, that they address various different topics, from affirmative action to defund the police to Cornell West, black books and black bookstores and so on and so forth. So check him out. But I interviewed him because he's also the curator of the Wise the Dome album, featuring various different powerful black, beautiful, revolutionary artists. And so we're just talking about that basically. So check that out this coming Thursday, near day Thursday, the 6th of July, at 5 p.m. UK time, London time, and 12 p.m. EST, 12 p.m. EST. I kind of scheduled it so that it'll be out in the earlier part of the day as far as my EST audience is concerned, all right? So feel free to check that out. And also check out the album. You can find the link on the channel. The actual video is up on the channel. With the scheduled video is up on the channel right about now. So set your reminder right here, for the Rakeem Shabazz interview and all of these things. And also, for those of us who are in the UK, the Messiah opening ceremony, we're honoring the life and legacy of the most eminent prophet, His Excellency Marcus Messiah Garvey, and the legacy of the UNIA ACL, of which I am a member. This coming Messiah, the month of Messiah, which is what we call August. So it's on the 6th of Messiah, not the 6th of August, but the 6th of Messiah, which is next month, Sunday. And I also have the pleasure of delivering the keynote address. The month of Messiah is an entire month, so there's events for the entire month, and many of them we will cover on gotkushTV also. So you'll get some footage and some information and so on and so forth about the events and when they're on, and we may even feature some of the events on the channel as well. We'll broadcast some of the events on the channel as well, so do stay tuned for that. I also have the pleasure of delivering the keynote address. I have the title, but we're not gonna let it out there yet. You know what I'm saying? We'll let it out there. Look more. We'll make it know what the subject is gonna be. But I'm looking forward to it. I had two things in mind, and I think I've decided on one. So we're gonna it's gonna be a beautiful, beautiful conversation. All right. Let me see how much ones are in the chat. I want to know if you lot are learning something from the conversation. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 ones. Okay, 4 ones. A significant number of people, said them not really learn much, it looks like, you know what I'm saying? So I forgot to look upon that, and assess. Either that or a significant number of people decide to them just not click the one, you know what I'm saying? But we'll see how it go. Oh, by the way, bigging up Mr. King 70,000 for the super chat. We appreciate it. Love, family, you know what I'm saying? Much appreciated for that support there. We love that. And kings and queens, there's so much I could say about the conversation that we've just had. It's necessary for us to understand that to say that something or a particular system is neocolonial doesn't mean that it's going to look the same everywhere that it is found. This is a logical fallacy. So that if this nation is under a neocolonial regime and that nation is under a neocolonial regime, that can only be possible if the outcomes look exactly the same. That doesn't make any sense. Nations can be operating under a capitalist economy or a socialist economy and have different outcomes. So if the outcomes, for example, in America can be different to the outcomes in Canada, can be different to the outcomes in France, can be different to the outcomes in Greece, can be different to the outcomes in Italy, you know what I'm saying? And they're all capitalist democracies, yeah, then it stands to reason, yeah, that you know, the same would apply for any economic system. Another day we'll delve deeper into the subject of GDP, yeah, GDP, gross domestic product, and why it is an insufficient barometer for measuring wealth, for measuring living standards and social mobility, yeah, of people within a nation. Okay, it's very important that we understand that, yeah. And there's a few other things that I could say, but we're gonna leave it there today, kings and queens, because you know, if I come back next year. All right. I appreciate you all for tuning in. I appreciate all those who joined the panel, joined the chat. Yeah, come back the week after next, after, you know what I'm saying, you know, I'm gonna get me Ginny from Philly fix. Yeah, I'll be back you know, again for another conversation, and it's gonna be a beautiful one. I already said I think next week I'm gonna be releasing some content regarding a Pan-African analysis of the Ukraine and Russia war. Stay tuned for the interview on what is taking place in Senegal coming soon, and much more, kings and queens. All right. Tenda Mwadi, we're thankful unto the Mother, Father, creative life force of the universe. Kozai Mudzima Mukoro, give praises unto our great ancestors, Abibi Tomi, Abibi Fahodie, African liberation and African power for all African people. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe.
My brother also talks about our romanticizing of Mama Africa. I don't romanticize Mama Africa. I'm not into romance, I'm into Africa. Right. And I am indeed most Afrimantic about Mama Africa. Most excited about Mama Africa. If you can be excited about Mecca and Hajj, then I can be excited about Mama Africa. The largest and most powerful real estate on the face of the earth, which belongs to us. Right. If you accept that Africa is the womb of humanity, then you accept that Africa, by implication, is our mother. That's right. That's right. We came out of the womb of Africa. That's so. Africa is our mother. That's right. Your mother may be perfect, may be imperfect, but she is still your mother. Africa is my mother, and her state presently is most imperfect, but she is still my mother. There was a woman, an African woman, who was in university. She was adopted, and she went to university. And brothers and sisters, one day another woman came to her and said, your mother is in the canteen and she wants to speak to you. Listen good. And she got up and ran out. She was raised by white people. She got up and ran out to see her mother, and when she looked, she saw a black woman, an African woman, with her face badly distorted because her face was burnt. Listen good. The woman looked at her mother and she said to the person that called her, oh, that's not my mother. My mother is not that ugly. Listen good. She went back to where she was, and the sister went with her. And whilst they were in her dormitory, her mother came, she found the dormitory, entered the dormitory, and said to her, yes, indeed, I am your mother. She said, I am not now what I looked like when I had you. Listen good. If you want to know what I look like, look in the mirror. I look exactly like you. Then she said, I got this way, my child, because I tried to save you from a fire. You were in a house that was burning down, and I sacrificed my beauty to save your life. That's right. And she said, the only thing that pains me now is that you have become so mean and so wretched in your spirit. Mama Africa may not be looking too beautiful now, brothers and sisters, but she is still our mother.